Work session for Tuesday, September 3rd, 2019. I am John Hutchings, and to my right is Commissioner Ty Menser, and just walking in is Commissioner Gary Edwards. And sitting over here is the County Manager, Ramiro Chavez. And on the bench we have...
Megan Porter.
Can they even hear you? You probably can't, okay. And Labonita Bomar, the Clerk of the Board. So we're going to go through the agenda for the BoCC meeting for Tuesday, September 10th, 1 week from today, because this afternoon, September 3rd, there is no BoCC meeting. Then we're going to review the Board of Health draft agenda for next week as well, the 10th, and then we'll go through a whole list of things here. But we'll start with the Board of County Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, September 10th, 2019. We'll call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. and we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Menser, and then approval of the agenda and the board meeting minutes from back in August 27th. Then we move into the agenda items. Number one is an opportunity for the public to address the board. Ramiro, are you aware of anything?
Good morning, Commissioners. You may have some public testimony related to the courthouse. And I believe from perhaps Mr. Pettit. He submitted a letter, I believe, last Sunday. I will have a draft response on your behalf ready for today, and hopefully we can send that response either today or tomorrow.
Okay. Is that it?
Yeah.
Are you aware of anything, comments from the public?
No, I'm not.
Perhaps on the Conservation District, Thurston Conservation District? Getting emails.
You could have. We start receiving emails related to the upcoming public hearing on September 24th. Will you be receiving public testimony on the renewal of the rates and charges for the Thurston Conservation District, and as well as the time aspect as to for how long those rates and charges should be implemented in the county. Okay. So we'll keep a record of all the correspondence that we received leading to the public hearing, and I will report at that time all the comments you have received.
Okay, and off the top of your head, do you remember when that public hearing is?
Yeah, September 24th, 2019 at 5:30 in the afternoon in this room.
Okay, 24th, thank you. That moves us into agenda item number 2, County Manager's Update, follow up on citizen issues.
Yeah.
And you already talked about that. That takes us to item number 3, the consent agenda, and we have items A through F. And the first one is the auditor canceling outstanding warrants.
Yeah, on a yearly basis, under our county code, sorry, they have a microphone here. We must retire what we call outstanding warrants. They're a year old or more. So as opposed to keep accumulating these warrants, we like to retire on a yearly basis. This is for warrants that amounts to $224 and equates to $5,330. 90% of those warrants are related to checks that have not been cashed related to mileage and jury duty fees. It ranges from $6 to $56, and again, it's a cumulative 224 overall. When the citizens serve as their civic duty of jury duty, they provided lunch, mileage, and so on and so forth, an account. And some citizens don't cash those out, and that's really the purpose of this action, is to retire those outstanding warrants.
And for the people watching at home, just so they don't get confused, these are not warrants for people's arrest
No.
that are being canceled.
It's a financial warrant.
It's a financial warrant or a voucher.
Yeah.
Okay. You have anything on this?
Possibly just for those folks watching at home. If a citizen knew they had misplaced or something had happened, where would you think they might call in? Would they call the auditor's office if they had a concern like that?
No, they probably need to call Superior Court because the Superior Court is the one who issues those
Okay.
checks.
Okay. Good thought, Bill. Number 2, I'm sorry, 3B is corrections. inmate housing contract.
Yes, let me get my notes. It was a little crazy this morning.
It's always crazy.
After a holiday. This is a contract, a proposed contract to renew the contract beds that we have with the Lewis County Sheriff's Office for overflow of our jail facilities. So we know what our contract beds. And we have to renew this on a yearly basis. So this proposal is to get in a contract with Lewis County again for 2020. And the rates have increased from $63.39 per night per individual in 2019 to $66.56 per inmate per night. That is just about 5% of the cost increases. And this will result in a little bit over $15,000 per year. And not necessarily all that will materialize, depending, and this is just to have somewhat of a place in case our Thurston County Jail needs additional beds, so we'll have the ability to access Lewis County Jail. As you may recall, we also have the same type of contract with Yakima County, and we use their facilities as well. Any questions?
No, sir.
Any questions? Yakima's price per bed is not going up?
I don't know
So
at
you
this
don't know?
point. No, I don't know.
Okay. And that 66.56 per bed, does that include, that's just that's room and board, does that include booking and all that? I know we book them here, but
That's the only thing we pay to them.
that's it?
Yeah. There is no other additional
Per
cost
bed,
that we
okay.
incur.
Do we transport people in and out of Yakima
Right.
or Lewis County?
Yeah, we do the transportation.
Both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's any medical, we do
And
that
also,
too.
in addition to that, there is an additional cost to the county because public defenders, they have to go and meet them at those locations, which is yet another incurred cost. So.
In my mind, just think about all the intricacies involved, because to have an inmate be transported here to meet with counsel, or counsel goes out there to meet with the inmate, for some reason it doesn't
Right.
happen, they don't meet, then they have to do that trip again, and it just compounds itself, as you probably well know. It's crazy. 3C, emergency services reclassification.
Yeah, this request is from the Emergency Services Department, and this requesting to reclassify an information and quality coordinator to a business application technician 2. And this is a request is to align the business needs because there's a more need to have an IT support on this department. And this department is Medic 1. Alongside with other fire agencies, as we move along in technology, there is a need to have the right set of expertise to provide IT services and support to all the applications that we have as we serve our citizens. This particular request results in a reduction in funding that goes from $7,738 to $6,085 a month. That will be a decrease of $1,293 or 18% a month.
Okay. Anything? Anything?
What budget does this come out of?
Medic 1.
Okay.
3D, human resources amending at-will pay plan.
This is what I call is a step 3 in the overall process. As you may recall, this has been almost 2 years in the making. The at-will plan was created to include the executive assistants to elected offices, and also, as you may recall, we included the at-will positions to the executive aides to the commissioners as part of this plan. That was step 2. Now, there's a step 3 is to include the executive assistants to the department directors as part of the at-will plan. And that will consolidate all the different executive assistants that we have in the county to provide to the leadership, both the offices, departments, as well as the Board of County Commissioners. So in this case, it will normalize, again, those classifications across the county. In this case, it's to the departments. So this classification will have an impact. And again, the impact give you is just the high level. Of $830, 16% a month, they will go from $5,280 to $6,110 a month. At this point, we only have 2 executive assistants to the departments. Not to say that those may be more in the future as we grow and continue the needs. And right now, we have 1 in Public Works and 1 in Public Health.
What is this doing exactly to the, I mean, what is the practical change to the folks that are being affected?
So the practical change is we moving into what we call the at-will plan. And those will be to the purview of the hiring authority. In this case, will be the head of the office of the department director as to how that person can operate. So the at-will plan is like that. And also provides, it defines how the compensation will be done depending on their duties. But mainly is normalizes the time, since they're not overtime eligible positions. We pass, as part of this plan, we passed a minimum of 4 hours they have to request vacation if they want to take a whole day. So there's a little more definition. In the past, before this at-will plan, it was not necessarily an even playing field, because what we call the at-will, they used to probably come report only for 2 hours and claim the whole day as being at work. With the understanding that since they're not overtime eligible, they will compensate on a 40-hour week, meaning those positions sometimes work late, sometimes, so there's a lot of demands for those positions. And when the 2-hour was in place, it was a little bit difficult to manage, because some individuals, perhaps they saw that as a benefit. They come to work 2 hours and claim the whole day. But never was the intent of that policy. The policy was eventually that you will make up that balance on another time because you work extra hours. So by defining this into the at-will plan, it really puts a little more perspective in as to how we manage those positions. That's really is, in essence, some of the changes that we had as implemented the at-will plan.
Okay, thank you.
Andrew, Gary?
No, good.
And that includes all the directors, all the individuals involved in the at-will plan. Yeah, consolidates all those positions.
All right, 3E, Public Health and Social Services.
This is an item for your consideration to approve amendment number 2 for the Healthcare Authority contract, adding $8,500 in partnership for success of funding and support to the Bucoda Tenino Healthy Action Team Coalition training. I checked with the staff, and the $8,500 doesn't appear to be that much money, but apparently the initial action didn't include the deviations as we have used to it. Chris Hawkins, I believe, is here, that can probably tell you more about the program, and if you have any questions.
Come on. Yeah, welcome, Chris. Thank you. Introduce yourself. Thank you.
Yes, Chris Hawkins, Program Manager with Thurston County Public Health and Social Services. This is a contract that we've been working under for the past year and a half from Healthcare Authority to do substance use prevention for youth. Particularly this amendment is with regard to the Tenino-Bucota coalition that we work with. Bucota Tenino Action Team, Healthy Action Team is the name of it. And this small amendment is to add some funds that became available midway through this last contract year to effectively train teachers in Tenino School District to be doing the Web Link Crew project, which is basically a transition program for elementary schoolers going into middle school and for middle schoolers going into high school. Prepares a group of peer leaders to help the kids that are making that transition and give them some guidance that helps them to steer clear of use of drugs.
Any questions or comments?
Sounds straightforward.
30% of our population, 100% of our future.
And it's a great effort to support the BDAT, right?
Thank you
The
very
Healthy
much.
Action Team
Thank
down
you,
there.
Chris.
So thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
3F, the financial services voucher list.
Yeah, that's your weekly update, Commissioners.
Takes us to department items now. Item number 4 is the Sheriff's Office, and this is a purchase of a Bearcat.
Yeah, this item, you have already received some information related to the Sheriff's Office intent to purchase a Bearcat vehicle. That's an armored protected vehicle, and the total estimated cost of $301,000. I have an item before you later on this agenda, item number 1, where the Sheriff's Office is going to come and give you additional perspective as to how the financial model will be put in place in order to purchase this. You already indicated, I believe, and you will be supportive of this action using the ER&R rates. But I think it will be helpful for the Sheriff's Office to give you the rest of the details. There is a lot of nuances as to how we can access the ER&R rates in order to purchase this vehicle. And the result of that briefing, as you may recall, is because the Sheriff's Office was not successful in securing a grant to purchase this vehicle. And they found a way as to how they can probably surplus an existing vehicle. The revenues of that surplus will be used to purchase this new armor protected vehicle. Anyway, this is an action that you may want to take next week, and depending on the information that we will receive from the Sheriff's Office later this morning.
Well, we'll start here.
The last time we heard about this was when they were still thought they might be able to get the grant. Is that correct?
Yes, at this point, it was, they realized they were not successful on the grant.
Because that was my recollection, and then I know I asked you about this item, and I was a little confused because I really didn't remember there being an intermediary discussion. I remember that it was, the issue, as I recalled it, was they were going to be able to get a grant. It wasn't going to cost us money to purchase, but we were going to have a general fund impact because of because of ongoing payment back into the replacement, because it was a much more valuable asset that we'd then have to sort of plan on replacing. And that was my thought, and the board went ahead and said okay to that.
Yeah, so that's the intent of this morning, just to give you really the perspective as to where we are, because the Sheriff's Office was not successable on securing the grant.
So we need to kind of hear what they're...
Yeah, so I believe they have an option to sell the existing vehicle. And anyways, I don't want to overstate what the Sheriff's Office is going to tell you this morning, but that's the purpose of the item.
Questions or comments?
No, I'll wait until the briefing.
I will too. However, and I don't remember the word you used, Ramiro, since they weren't able to, the Sheriff's Office wasn't able to secure the grant, I don't know if you said maybe or perhaps or hopefully they would surplus a vehicle and use that money. Do you have any idea how hopeful we are?
Well, I think that will be a good question for you to ask the Sheriff's Office when they come.
And it's all going to be about timing as well.
Yeah, it's all about timing, and I do believe they have a plan as to how they can probably purchase this vehicle, and that will be good for you to listen to
All
what that
right.
is. And at that point, you will provide me direction whether you'd like to keep this item on the agenda next week or not.
Okay, make some note here. All right, 4B, resolution for, oh, there's a purchase for the Bearcat, the same thing?
Well, it shouldn't be two items. I need to clarify that. They added this item this morning. I asked La Bonita to give me additional information because if the board decides to support this purchase, it should be a single action. I don't think we need another action, so we'll clarify that before next week.
All right. That takes us to agenda item number 5, Public Works, setting a public hearing.
Yeah, this is a follow-up to the direction of the board to bring an AIS for you to consider setting a public hearing for Tuesday, October 1st, 2019, at 3 in the afternoon in this room, for you to receive public testimony related to proposed Thurston County code changes to Chapter 15.20. And this is related to the apprenticeship program. Right now, we have an apprenticeship program requirement of 10% for capital projects that are $1 million and above. The proposed changes the 10% to a 15%, and also does not change the $1 million capital project. So is that simple change, changing from 10 to 15% apprenticeship requirements on our capital projects, public works projects. Thank you.
Okay.
Are we going to have another briefing on this?
What would you like to?
I don't know. I mean, I'm just wondering, are we having another briefing? I remember we had one, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago.
No, we had
Did we
one.
have it?
We had one just a week ago.
Okay.
It just seems like 6 months.
No.
Vicky was sitting in for you.
Yeah, I've got some notes on that.
Okay.
Okay.
But this is to set the public hearing for October 1.
Yes.
Might there be, if we needed, would there be time, there would be time to have another briefing if we needed one or asked for one?
Yeah. We'd love to hear what particulars you would like to hear on that briefing, so we're prepared.
And that's just in case, okay.
Yeah.
Good, thank you. Item number 6, CPED, Community Plan Economic Development, public hearing.
This item is related to the budget, and on August 6th, you received a briefing, a long briefing, as you may recall, related to the capital improvement program updates for 2020-2025. And that was the result of the Planning Commission having a work session on June 19, 2019, and also the Planning Commission held a public hearing on July 24, 2019, where they didn't receive much public testimony, and the Planning Commission unanimously suggested for you to consider approval of this, the CIP. This is an annual requirement that we need to go through, and again, this is aligned to the budget. You will have another AIS coming up for you to set a public hearing on the same date, October 7th, at 5:30 in the afternoon, where you will hear also entertain public testimony for the overall 2020 budget adjustments that you provide initial direction last week.
Good.
No.
All right, thank you. Agenda item number 7, Public Health and Social Services, the 2020 point in time count. And right up front, I'll ask you, under 7, we have A, B, and C, and D. And these are also like Board of Health type things, but we have it intentionally on the Board of County Commissioners. Is that correct?
Not necessarily intentionally, is the mechanics, because the Board of County Commissioners are the one who issues a request for proposals. Also, the Board of County Commissioners are the ones who agrees on interlocal agreements. That's why you have those in here.
That's what I meant by design,
Yeah.
is intentional. Okay, thank you. So 7A is the 2020 point-in-time count request.
As a matter of background, the Homeless Housing in a System Act requires that each county in Washington conduct an annual point-in-time count for shelter or unsheltered homeless individuals. This census is conducted in accordance to the requirements of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. As you may recall, the point-in count for 2019 occurred back in January, and we have some results. The next point-in count is scheduled for January 23rd, 2020. And in the past, the City of Olympia has been the one who oversees and coordinates all the point-in count. They have indicated they're no longer able to commit to that particular coordination. And so this request is for you to consider going for that request for proposals or for qualifications to see what contractor can serve on the same level as the City of Olympia has served in the past. This really is a request for proposals to secure a contractor. You did approve in 2019 $25,000 for this effort, and at this point we're not requesting to change that allocation. And Tom is here to answer any questions you may have.
Do you have any, Commissioner Menzer?
So, yeah, I do. So this idea of Olympia doing it before and not doing it now, what's the story? Why were they doing it? Why aren't they doing it? Were they paying for it? Are they not paying for it? And what,
Right.
what's your-
Tom Webster, Public Health and Social Services. So this is a responsibility the county has had for many, many years. And in the past, we've contracted it through various mechanisms. The last 2 years has been with the City of Olympia, and we've provided them with a $25,000 contract to support this work.
Okay.
They've indicated they anticipate some staffing changes. The person who has managed this project in the past, my understanding, will be retiring, is no longer able to kind of take on this role through the end of the process. So they've asked us, they've kind of indicated to us that they're no longer able to kind of take on that role.
Is that Anna?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we've got the money, it's just a matter of who we have do it, and City of Olympia stepped up and wanted to do it, and now we're just gonna see what other,
Correct.
we're gonna contract with another entity.
Correct. And Keely Marino will be the lead on this, and she'll kind of manage a lot of the day-to-day. But then this is a person to support her with a lot of the implementation, because it is a very large event, as you're aware of, and it takes a lot of coordination and recruitment and work, so.
Commissioner Edwards.
Will this give us an opportunity to make some adjustments in the information that we gather, some of the criteria used and what we come up with?
Yes, I mean, there's a certain baseline that we're required to do from HUD and the Department of Commerce that we have to meet, but we can go above and beyond those baseline requirements from Commerce and HUD. So yes, we can continue to revise and update and add to the process and the information we collect.
And where will that, where will those adjustments come from? Will they come from the Board of Health, or will they come from us as the Board of County Commissioners? Do you know the answer to that?
I do not know the answer to that.
What I'm concerned about is we recently approved $1 million to deal with mental health issues that are going to be strapping the taxpayers here, I feel, in the future, if we don't get a handle on what's going on here with basically the homeless population that keeps influxing into this area from outside of this area. And it looks like it's not the philosophy, I don't know, downtown possibly continues to encourage that, but it is going to be a big hit on our ability to deal with the mental health problem in this community if we bring mental health issues from all over the country here. So that's why I'm concerned that at some point we develop some criteria so we know who we're dealing with and where those folks are from. And maybe a possible process to help them make maybe better decisions. I don't know. I just don't see that we can continue to encourage those folks to come here. So that's where I'm coming from on all this. So I suppose we'll hear more about this later.
Yeah, and Keely, Marino can certainly have a briefing and provide additional information and get your input and feedback as we develop the process for the point-in-time count for 2020. We're just at this initial stage of starting to do the planning. So we're happy to involve you as necessary and to get your input as we go forward with the planning process.
If you approve this item, we can come back and give you some information as to what contractor has been selected. And at that point, we'll give you a broader briefing as to how the point and count could be conducted. There's a little bit of as you may recall the conversation, similar conversation early in the year, it becomes a little bit difficult if an individual who has been interviewed to ask where he or she is coming from. But certainly, where there's opportunities for us to explore that option, we'll bring.
Well, that's basically what I want to do is figure out a way around that restrictive questioning, if you will. I think the taxpayers have every right to know where these people are coming from. So that's kind of where I'm at.
So the census is not a mandated census. It's whoever would like to participate in the census. And even as you may recall, not everyone participates on the census that we approach during the point and count. So it becomes difficult. Even you probably heard that perhaps the numbers that resulted in the 2019 point and time count may not represent really the right number of the population. So it's all that perhaps we need to explore with you as to any opportunities that we may have to revamp the 2020 point and count.
I see a real thin hairline differentiation between gathering data, where they're from, whether they're from Kansas or from Thurston County, and establishing policy. And just the mere gathering of data is not going to establish a policy to prevent people from coming, just to find out why are you here, where'd you come from. Won't prevent or draw more people. It's subsequent, perhaps, policy that Olympia may set, but that doesn't impact us. We could set our own policies. But it's good information to gather. And again, it's voluntary, so we get out of it what we get the input, right? My question is with regard to Olympia, they're not going to do they're not even doing their own point in time count or census?
We will coordinate with the City of Olympia, and so they're part of the broader countywide count, so they will participate, but they're just not going to take the lead in managing the process. So they'll be active participants, they just won't be the lead contractor in implementing the process.
Okay, I was understanding that maybe they don't want to be the lead anymore, but they're going to do their own, but everybody else is on their own. That's not the case.
The process is the county will manage it for the entire county. So this Olympia will have events in Olympia. The City of Olympia will be involved, but will all be a coordinated, comprehensive account that will all flow in to the county now, who will prepare the final report.
Okay, and so they're bearing their own costs. Olympia is on their point in time activities then?
I don't know if they'll have any additional costs. They'll have volunteers and yes, so their staff time, we're not paying for their staff time.
We're not reimbursing them for taking a lead.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Anything else?
No, sir.
We'll wait to hear more. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
That was 7A. 7B is the Cascade Pacific Action Alliance contract amendment.
Yeah, Commissioner.
CPAA.
As a matter of background, the State Healthcare Authority is leading in strategic changes within Medicaid, allowing us to move forward a healthier Washington. The Healthier Washington Medicaid transformation is an agreement with the federal government that allows the state to test new and innovative approaches to provide health coverage and care. The Medicaid services that provide just about $1.5 billion in federal investment for regional health system transformation projects. And this is related to a regional-wide approach. A little bit closer, Thurston County is the regional healthcare authority for the Cascade Pacific Action Alliance, what we call the CPAA, which comprises of 7 counties: Cowlitz County, Grace Harbor, Lewis, Mason, Pacific, Thurston, and Wahkiakum. And this particular agreement is to extend those services for 2020 at a cost of $203,820. Liz is here to available if you have any additional information or have any questions related to this program.
Yeah, question.
Good morning, Commissioners. Liz Davis, Director of Child Community. Why can't I remember my own title? Division Director of,
Because it's long.
sorry?
Because it's long.
Because it's long.
Division director is fine.
Division Director at Public Health and Social Services. Sorry, I'm tongue-tied this morning.
Okay, question?
Yeah, can you just give a little bit of backfill on this? This is something that's come up, and I never got the sort of overarching theme of how this fits into everything else.
Yes.
With the CPAA and what services it's providing and exactly how it.
Absolutely. So the Cascade Pacific Action Alliance is broader than just this Medicaid transformation demonstration, which is over a 5-year period. The goal of the Cascade Pacific Action Alliance is to improve health in our 7-county region, which Thurston is the largest of those 7 counties. It also includes Grays Harbor, Mason County, Lewis County, Clark County, Pacific County, and Wahkiakum County. So it's a large region, especially geographically, and when you look at Thurston County of over 260,000 people down to Wahkiakum, which has 4,000 people, it's pretty broad. So we are one of 9 accountable communities of health in the state, and this is part of the Healthier Washington initiative to overall improve population health in Thurston County. And so this has been going on about 5 years, and originally, we, as a county and through Thurston Thrives, brought up our community health improvement plan to contribute towards our regional health improvement plan. So while we have been working on regional health improvement overall, at the same time, this federal money came through Washington, through the Healthcare Authority, and we knew that this was coming down the pike. But this gives us opportunity to use Medicaid dollars in an expanded way than we were able to in the past. And so this is really, I don't want to call it a pilot, but they're calling it Medicaid transformation projects, but it's time limited. So in our county, we were selected to provide projects in 3 specific areas: maternal and child health, in which the specific program that we're doing is nurse-family partnership, chronic disease prevention and response, in which Chris heads a project on chronic disease prevention and response. And then also we have an opioid response project that centers around our syringe services program. So this particular year, we'll be getting a little over $200,000 towards those 3 projects.
200?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions? Good to go. Thank you, Liz.
You're welcome.
7C, approval of amendment for the NFP, Nurse Family Partnership contract with the Lewis County.
Yeah, related to that, Commissioners, as you may know, as you know, we provide nurse family partnership services to Lewis County. And this particular item is for you to consider having an amendment to the current contract to extend those services for 2020 at a cost of $309,822. And again, Liz is here to answer any questions related to the Nurse Family Partnership Program.
Any questions? NFP? NFP questions?
I'm good.
Good. Thank you. I don't either. Thank you, Liz. And 7D, Delta, approval of Thurston Thrives contract.
Yeah, for your consideration, Commissioners, is for you to consider revising the current contract that we have with Thurston Thrives Coordinating Council. And with the chambers, with the Thurston County Chambers, which is they are the executors of the Thurston Thrives Coordinating Council. This initiative, the Thurston Thrives Coordinated Council, was launched by the Board of Health, Thurston County Board of Health, in 2013, with a broad initiative as to how we can provide services to the communities, having some of the private providers be part of the conversation, be on the table. There has been a successful approach in the past as to how the county partners with the Thurston Thrives Coordinated Council as a result with the Thurston County Chambers. The county contributes $40,000 a year to the chamber, and that is on the budget. The initial intent of the investment of $40,000 by the Board of Health and the Board of County Commissioners was to serve it will be somewhat of an in-kind services that will help generate additional revenue from private partners so the Thurston Thrives Coordinated Council can thrive into the future. As you may know, that has been successful. They have been, the Chambers has been very successful in getting additional money other than the $40,000. But within the past contract, the clause explaining, requiring they need to justify for whatever dollar the county invests, $40,000, they need to provide a report report for every dollar they receive from others. And over the years, we have seen there is a lot of work associated with that reporting on a monthly basis, both from the chambers as well as from the county. It creates a very administrative burdensome. So the proposed agreement takes that requirement and makes that investment to the chambers of $40,000 on a yearly basis. And that's really the gist of that. It doesn't increase the dollar amount on this agreement. It just changes the reporting requirements the chambers was required in the previous contract. And again, Liz is here to answer any questions related to this change.
The last piece that you said,
Yeah.
which was probably the important piece, and I was a little bit spacing there. So previously the reporting requirements were more onerous, and this like relaxes them. Is that the concept? Okay.
Yep.
That's what I understood.
Any questions?
What will we end up with as oversight for that expenditure?
So in terms of oversight, Chris and I, anytime that we are invoiced, we see what has been provided in terms of service. It's broken down into an hourly rate. They also show us what any in-kind contributions are during that time, and also they let us know when they have additional monies that come in. It's not part of the contract, but we have a very close working relationship with Thurston Thrives and the fiscal agent, which is the Chamber Foundation. So for example, they've had additional cash contributions this year from Kaiser Permanente, from Wells Fargo, from the United Way of Thurston County and from the Cascade Pacific Action Alliance. And so Chris and I work closely with them to maintain oversight of Thurston Thrives. Also, our director, Shelley Slaughter, as well as Commissioner Menser, serve on the coordinating council, which is sort of the steering committee of Thurston Thrives. So we maintain a lot of involvement.
Has United Way made any comments about they're not going to be contributing to this?
No, the United Way has already contributed for this fiscal year.
Okay.
And part of the reason for making this change is a lot of the other organizations run on a fiscal year rather than a calendar year, so it's become even more onerous to try to manage that invoicing.
Just to clarify, the United Way Commissioner, you may recall, is stopping their contribution to the CIP, the Community Investment Partnership. It's a little bit different.
Okay, you're right. That's what I was wondering, if there was a connection.
Yes, it's a different contribution.
And what fund are we paying this 40,000 out of?
That comes out of the general fund allocation that you transfer on a yearly basis to public health.
I would like to have a discussion at some point to make sure that we aren't missing the boat here on another fund that possibly can contribute the full amount or maybe a portion of the amount that goes with together, if my other seatmates might agree.
Sure, we chat about that, you bet. With our options.
Considering that we're moving forward on the 2020, which is this
Well,
part of the baseline.
I don't want it to
No,
hold up.
that's what I'm asking you, if you
Yeah.
like part of the 2020
I
budget
don't want it to hold
adjustment,
it up, I just want to get a review of what we're
or
doing.
maybe next year we'll
Okay,
schedule everything.
as long as we get it on the schedule.
Perfect, thank you.
And you feel that with the changes that are being made, you'll have the information you need to provide the oversight?
Absolutely.
Obviously, we didn't get down into the weeds of what those changes are, but
Absolutely.
I'm trusting that you're got what you need.
Yes.
Okay.
And when you're talking about Chris, for the record, you're not talking about Chris Chapeau, you're talking about Chris Hawkins.
Chris Hawkins, yes, Program Manager at Public Health.
Regarding the accountability, the oversight and such, and the cumbersome reporting that has been in the past, there still will be a report, an annual report?
Yes, and also some other stipulations are included in this contract to include bi-monthly reports to you, oral reports from the director of Thurston Thrives, where she'll come and provide some updates about what's going on. Also, at least 6 convenings of the coordinating council every year and some other deliverables.
Good. And I applaud and thank Thurston County Chamber Foundation for doing this for us. Anything further? Nope.
Nope.
All right, that takes us to agenda item number 8, the county manager. We talk about our junk, he talks about his stuff, and then we adjourn and move into the Board of Health. That takes care of the BoCC meeting for September 10th, Tuesday next. And we're going to jump into the Board of Health real quick here.
Liz, back to the hot seat.
Where'd you go? She disappeared. This is going to be the, we're going to review the agenda for the Board of Health for Tuesday, September 10th. And we'll call the meeting to order about 3:30-ish and approve the agenda and the board meeting minutes. And we move right into proclamations and presentations. And the first one is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month.
Yes, it is both Suicide Awareness Prevention Month, and also that week happens to be Suicide Prevention Awareness Week. So Jennifer Simmons will be speaking on behalf of the department. She will be introducing both Scott Hanauer, who is with Family Education and Support Services, and Kyler Maddox, who is a youth member of our Youth Alive Suicide Prevention Coalition. And they will be there to accept the proclamation and to speak to you about suicide awareness and prevention efforts in our county.
So we have Jennifer, Scott, and another
Yes,
The
so
third person.
Jennifer will be there to introduce Scott and Kyler.
And Kyler, okay. So my first question is, before I get to my seatmates, I only see 5 minutes for this. You're going to do all that in 5 minutes?
We can. If you would like to give us more time,
Wow.
we can certainly take up more time, but we can certainly make that happen within 5 minutes.
Okay, well, we'll keep it as it is. I just want to be sure that wasn't like a mistype or something. Okay.
We'll be fast as we possibly can.
Wow. All right, any questions on the suicide prevention awareness? You do? Go ahead.
Are you going to be coordinating any with maybe the hub out at Lacey regard to military folks? You know, the whole 22-a-day business. I mean, is there any reason we couldn't recognize that problem at the same time and coordinate that effort with this effort?
There's no reason at all. We can certainly reach out to the Veterans Hub. We do have a staff member, Ashley, who works out of the hub, so we could certainly work with her to do some work from that standpoint.
Okay, you just might need more than 5 minutes by the time you're done.
That,
so.
indeed.
That's it? Okay. And I'm looking up something else here that we'll get to. The next proclamation is Septic Smart Week. I don't see Art.
I don't
That's
either.
okay.
That's okay.
And that's just an awareness, or proclamation rather, and we're going to proclaim the week of September 16th through the 20th, 2019 as Septic Smart Week. Anything to add, Romero or Liz, to that?
No, that's a yearly,
Dr. Wood, yeah.
yearly proclamation that you consider.
Okay. We have Dr. Rachel Wood in the house. Come on up, Doc.
Good morning, Dr. Rachel Wood, Health Officer, Thurston and Lewis. I am just living here, but my experience with septic systems is that owners put them in and then they don't maintain them. So I'm just going to put a plug in for maintenance of your septic system, like don't drive onto the mound with your pickup truck, and because when the septic starts to break down, that threatens all of our public's health. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Then we have an opportunity for the public to address the board. Are you aware of any hot topics?
No, sir.
Anyone? Romero?
No, sir.
Go ahead, Gary.
All right, kind of stepping back here a step.
Sure.
Have we been doing the septic week proclamation?
Yes,
In the
yes,
past?
we have.
Here's Art, in case if you want to add anything to it.
Yeah, thanks, Art. Do you have any questions?
No, that's
You're
good.
up.
Would you like to hear from Art about
I don't have any
Septic Smart Week?
questions. Okay. You don't either?
No.
Do you have any questions for Art?
Not on the proclamation, no.
Okay. So next up, after the opportunity for the public to address the Board of Health, is department item. The first one is on-site septic presentation. Is Art in the house yet? Oh, there he is. Come on up.
I'm Art Starry. I'm the Environmental Health Division Director for Thurston County Public Health and Social Services. And what this is going to be about is a comparison of the septic system monitoring and maintenance results we have for different areas of the county. So the U2 board members, Commissioner Hutchings and Commissioner Edwards, might recall a few years ago when we had the septic system management plan that came about. And a lot of the community members were saying that having a more rigorous approach wasn't really necessary, that if we did a better job of doing education and outreach, we could achieve higher level results as far as having people actually doing their monitoring and maintenance of their septic systems. And so we were able to kind of look for and obtain a grant to actually allow us to kind of do a real high-end, high-level, intensive education and outreach program in a part of the county, and now we've got some preliminary results from that, so we can kind of compare how well people are doing there as far as monitoring and maintaining their septic systems as compared to Henderson, Inland, and Nisqually Reach, and the rest of the county. So we're going to share that information. It'll be kind of hot off the presses, so to speak. And so,
Riveting.
so that's going to be coming up. And so Jane Mountjoy-Benning, who's the supervisor of that program, will be sharing that information with you.
But we have to wait.
Yeah,
So that's a nice soundbite.
1 week and about, what, 6 hours?
Sounds
That's
great.
a
Can't wait.
cliffhanger. Any questions on that? Go ahead.
Art, do we record some of that training or something for playing on our local community TV so people get exposed to it?
We aren't recording the septic system classes yet. We could try to do that, but as far as the workshops that are coming up in September, those are just things that we do. We haven't actually tried to record them yet.
I just wonder if it isn't worth looking into. We have the time on TCTV, and if we're trying to reach the public, that'd be another avenue. That's all.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, because we've got a couple different styles of classes. There's those kind of the 101 classes, and then we've got the more advanced ones that we do for InterSyn and Nisqually. So that's a good idea. We can talk to Megan about that.
Great. Thank you, Art.
Okay, thank you.
Agenda item number 5, back to school travel. Anything? Chris Hawkins, welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners. Chris Hawkins, Program Manager with Public Health and Social Services. So this item will be an update on our efforts to encourage more walking and bicycling to school and increased traffic safety around schools as a key part of not just public health's interest in encouraging more physical activity and reducing injuries in the community, but also it's a major part of the Thurston Thrives Community Design Action Team's strategy. So it's going to be an update on what we're doing in Safe Routes to School. We'll be inviting some partners here to participate in the presentation. We work together with Thurston County Public Works on these Safe Routes to School projects, the Sheriff's Department, as well as partners in the community like Safe Kids Thurston County, Intercity Transit, and some other organizations. So it's we've got some good projects that are happening. I'm excited to share that with you and also update you on some of the information that we have back from our efforts.
Good, okay. Questions?
No.
That is back to school travel and safety and such. What's that stat you, is it 30%? 80%? 80%?
30% of our population, 100% of our future, right?
All right, thank you, Chris. That takes us to agenda item number 6, Healthy Schools Pilot and Voluntary. And Sammy Berg's going to be here for that, inspecting schools.
Yes, indeed. This is actually a joint presentation of Sammy Berg from Environmental Health, Food and Environmental Services, and Jennifer Johnson from Community Engagement, Evidence and Partnerships. Sammy does an ongoing program to assist schools with voluntary efforts to increase health and safety across school districts around Thurston County. And Jennifer has some news about a pilot project that we did just this past year with Griffin School District to try to do some preventive work, reducing the amount of toxic chemicals that they use for cleaning and for groundskeeping in that school district. So we have some interesting results from that we'd like to share with you.
So within the schools, so it's a combined presentation, not joint. I don't use the word joint.
Yes.
Kids. Any questions on that?
No.
Anything? Good, look forward to
No,
that.
sir.
Thank
you. That takes us to number 7, approve amendment number 2, the Lewis County NFP contract. That's why I kept looking at the other one.
Yes,
the BoCC.
it looks familiar, doesn't it?
Yes, it
And that is because it is on both agendas right now. It will be removed from one, but we're awaiting a determination from the prosecuting attorney's office. Previously, this has been taken through the Board of Health at the recommendation of the PAO, but because it is an interlocal agreement, that's something normally that we would take through BoCC. So as soon as we hear back from the prosecuting attorney's office, we will be taking this off one of the 2 agendas.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
That takes us to item number 8, termination of the Lewis County Health Officer Agreement.
As you know, Dr. Rachel Wood, our health officer, will be leaving her employment as Thurston County Health Officer in November. And so that means that we will no longer have an interlocal agreement with Lewis County, as currently she shares those duties between the 2 counties.
Got that? Questions? Or comment?
I don't think so.
remind me what the percentage of her time is toward Lewis County?
So currently, Dr. Wood is 80% in Thurston and 20% in Lewis.
And we're going to be, won't we have a briefing coming up on this? I saw.
Yes, there is an executive session, I believe, is scheduled for next week, where you will have the opportunity to have a conversation as to how you like to go ahead and advertise this position. We are in, as you know, the skill set needed as well as the education required to provide, be the health officer is extremely complex. And it is going to be a little bit of a tasking as to how we're going to go ahead and replace Dr. Wood in the long term. The executive session, it will be a little bit more on the strategy as to how you, as a Board of Health, would like to implement it recruiting for this position. And also at that point, you will hear from staff whether it's a full-time, half-time. So all that is going to give you the opportunity to hear from staff and for you to provide direction as to how you would like to go ahead and start recruiting for this position.
So if we determine that the 80-20 split is just absolutely perfect, we can enter into a new contract with Lewis County, or?
Well, I don't want to speak for Dr. Wood, but I believe Dr. Wood will continue to serve us at Lewis County after her retirement from Thurston County. So the conversation will be how we, Thurston County, is going to be providing that.
Okay.
Well, that answers my question, because I was hoping Lewis County wasn't going to be left in the dark or unattended.
No.
Questions or comments?
No, I'll wait for the briefing coming up. That's-
Okay, great.
that's good.
And I'm happy for you, Dr. Wood. Happy for you.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to agenda item number 9, where we share our related activities, and then we have the Dr. Rachel Wood's Health Officer report, and then the Director's report, and then we adjourn. So that takes us through both agenda items for next Tuesday, BoCC and the Board of Health. And it is now 10:02, and we're going to take a 10-minute bio break to accommodate staff and anybody else in the house. So let's come back at 10:15. We get 13 minutes. 10:15, thank you. Great, just in time. Thanks for being back. It is still September 3rd, 2019, and the same cast of characters here, and we're continuing on with our agenda work session, and next up is Proclamations and Awards.
Just a reminder that next Tuesday, the 10th of September, we will have a proclamation proclaiming a National Day of Service and Remembrance. I'm going to be adding that to the agenda, the Board of County Commissioners' agenda, as a timed item for next Tuesday.
Okay.
I'm working with Kurt Harden to invite various fire, police, to be able to attend the meeting. So we will be working together.
Not in that order, though.
No,
Police and then fire.
yes.
Okay.
And so that's the only proclamation that I'm going to be having for next Tuesday.
When will that get to us, this week?
Yes, it's finalized. I just have to print it out and get you to sign it.
Okay. Questions on that? There's nothing here, you're giving it to us
No,
now. Thank
no.
you, Law. All right, and that's it for Proclamations, now awards?
Yes, sir. No awards.
No awards, okay. Advisory boards and commissions.
Yes, we have 3 applications in your packet for the Fair Board. Harley Jo Holman, Monica Alvarez, and double check that name, yes.
Which one, Monica?
And Dennis Vernon Rodriguez, I think is incorrect there. Hold on, I think that dropped down to another line. Monica Alvarez Rodriguez and Dennis
Oh, I
Vernon.
see what you're doing, yeah.
Yeah,
I got it.
it dropped down.
So,
Yeah, Dennis Brennan, okay.
These were, the new one in this packet is Dennis Vernon. The Monica and Harley Jo were in your packet last time that we met, and so I'm just
is
seeking.
Dennis Vernon related to the person we removed from the fire board?
Yes.
Shannon?
Is Ms. Shannon Vernon husband. So, and also attached to your packet is an email that I believe Ms. Shannon Vernon sent to you, copied to me, and she makes a reference on the conversation that she had with Commissioner Edwards on this. And to make a long story short of what she provided to you, and she CC'd me, she would like for you to consider reappointing her to the Thurston County Fair Board, and also for you to strongly consider appointing her husband to the Fair Board.
How many slots are we dealing with here that are left?
There's one Commissioner District 2 position available, and there are 4 member at large
That are empty?
that are empty.
And we're considering another, an additional youth position. Young gal, this is Monica Alvarez Rodriguez, who was recommended by Kia,
Yes.
okay, from last week. And have you had a chance to look at the at Monica's and
Harley Jo.
Harley Jo's?
I have not.
I'm sorry, repeat what the vacancies are again. There's 4 at-large open positions.
Yes, and 1 Commissioner District 2 position.
So that's 5.
5
And then
total.
there's youth positions in addition?
No, no, no.
Those are filled?
Those are filled.
Okay. But we thought about maybe taking a youth and making them
And we
at-large?
can.
That's what you recall, it was perhaps a youth application can be considered
There
to
was
be
a
appointed as a
suggestion
large.
of that.
Yes.
And these are both, I'm sorry, Haley Jo's a student as well.
Yes.
So we have 2 youth
Yes,
positions, and then Dennis Shannon.
yes.
All right, well, I'm ready to decide once my seatmates weigh in. Or thumbs up or down, rather.
I looked at the 2 youth and I didn't have a problem, but I haven't seen all this
I haven't seen it
Dennis and
either.
Shannon stuff. I'm gonna need to look
This
at
is-
all of that.
Right,
Yeah, absolutely.
that was new information that I just received. Also, both of the youth are in Commissioner District 2. They actually live in Commissioner District 2, so you could appoint one of them as a Commissioner District 2 member and the other one as a member at large.
At large,
If
right.
you so choose.
Questions or comments?
No,
On
I do,
the-
but I do need to review this stuff too. I have one question, possibly. Does Josh oversee the fair activity?
Well, he oversees, the Thurston County Fair, and he's a liaison with the Thurston County Fair Board.
Okay. Is there any chance, has he been made privy to this or
Yeah,
received the same information?
I shared a copy.
The
of
Vernon
it.
information you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, whatever else is all on here that I haven't reviewed. I was just wondering, were we going to get some kind of an update from Josh at some point about this whole activity going on at the Fair Board? I thought, I mean, because he's the one who oversees it the most, that he could give us
So-
his perspective. Is that,
Would you like a perspective, Josh's perspective on Mr. and Mrs. Vernon appointment, or?
well, maybe that whole process of his perspective of how that all came about, and his view of it. I'd just like to hear, because he's the one who oversees it. He's got a lot more information than I do. I'd just like to talk to him at some time.
Yeah, absolutely. As you may recall, before you took took the action of removing Ms. Vernon from the Fair Board, Josh came and provided that perspective related to what happened, and that put you in the position to take an action on that.
Okay, so we can
So
talk to him
but
individually and
if
he can update us.
If you like to additional information related to the Fair Board, give me some perspective so I can talk to
No,
him.
I'll visit with Josh at some point. I mean, I don't know when, but I just wanted to see if there was anything new. That's all.
I don't believe so, and when I read Ms. Vernon's letter to you,
When did you read the letter to us?
No, he read the letter that's addressed to us.
They're addressed to you, thank
He
you.
didn't read to us.
It's the letter that was sent to you, when I read that letter, it is included.
You haven't read that to us, right? At
No,
some
no, no,
point?
no, what I'm saying is, when I read the
Oh.
letter that it was addressed to you, thank you.
Okay.
She just provides her side of the story
Okay.
on the events that occurred. So,
Good enough. I haven't had a chance to read it. so
And
I-
she's requesting reappointment.
she's requesting reappointment, and also she's requesting you consider appointing her husband.
Yeah, okay.
So I'll go on the record right now, I'm not the least bit interested in reappointing Shannon Vernon. And as for her recommendation, I'd have to give Dennis Vernon a good think.
Oh, Josh
Well,
heard his name.
he's watching. I wanted to avoid putting you on the spot, but since you're here.
No, I'm not looking for a briefing on it now. I'm just.
Can I ask Josh a question?
Oh,
since he's
absolutely.
here?
Certainly, yeah, you bet. Josh, come on up, please.
I won't go deep into the Vernon issue, but Josh, I know you have a long history with the fair. Are you comfortable with the concept of us putting youth folks that are, I assume they're under, I didn't check their age, they're under 18, is that why we're
They're
calling them youth?
17-ish, I think.
17-year-old members as full-fledged members of the fair board for an at-large spot or even a District 2 spot? Is that appropriate from your perspective?
So what I would say is, over the last few years, so Joshua Cummings, Director of Community Planning and Economic Development, one of the boards and commissions within CPED is the fair, and one of the things that CPED tries to do is honor the different boards and commissions, the volunteers that are within on those boards and commissions serving. And so my first step would be to engage with the volunteer citizens of the fair board and ask them that question. What I do know is that over the years, we've had some hard times filling the youth positions, so making them at large would probably provide some more flexibility going into the future. They are full-fledged members currently of the Fair Board, but they do cycle on and off, so they sometimes don't have as much institutional knowledge. I don't want to put a Fair Board member that's in the audience on the spot necessarily, but if there's anything that they would like to share in terms of the Fair Board perspective, they're definitely welcome to.
Is there I'm sorry, go ahead, do you have more follow-up?
Well, yeah, because it sounds like we've got our youth spots filled, which
Yeah, exactly.
That sounds like maybe unusual, and now we're looking for, and when I say full-fledged, I just meant I guess they weren't intended to be youth spots, and, right?
Which begs the question, is there an age requirement to be a full-fledged member?
No,
There isn't. Okay.
not in the youth positions. I think from as the director's
No,
personal
no, not in the
perspective.
youth, but a regular position.
Right, no, but to answer the question, in terms of the more the merrier, If kids want to participate, if youth want to participate in serving their community, I think that's a great thing.
Go ahead.
I'm good. I think we're going to take this up at a later date. It looks like a total package, aren't we?
Well, we're going to have to if we don't decide now.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't read the letter. I hate
No, okay.
But would you like to bring the 3 appointments to next week, or you're in the position to perhaps make a decision on the first 2, Mr.
youth?
Holman and Ms. Alvarez?
I'm okay with the 2 youth.
Okay.
And
Based on
those
statute.
appointments will be, would you like to consider Ms. Alvarez as a at-large or District 2?
Where does she live?
In District 2.
They're both Yelm.
Yes. both of them are-
Okay.
I would propose putting one in District 2, that way we have flexibility.
Okay.
and
Okay.
keep the
Yeah.
at-larges.
So we put Mr. Holman on at-large and Ms. Alvarez at District 2.
Okay.
Okay. And we'll bring Mr. and Mrs. Vernon's request next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Josh.
That's all that I have for boards and commissions.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Good question. Now we're going to move right into our Pio Check-In.
Good morning,
Good
Commissioners. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. I just want to say we had a very successful off-site meeting last week at the Yale Middle School. We are still working out the bugs on scheduling these, so we recognize that the Yelm City Council meeting was happening at the same time. We will make sure that we think about that prior to scheduling our next one. But we do want to thank the Yelm community for welcoming us. We'll begin planning for the off-site meeting in District 1 soon. So we'll be meeting with you soon. Because the agenda setting from last Monday wasn't live streamed, I just want to let everyone know that it was recorded and uploaded to YouTube the same evening. So if anybody's looking for that agenda setting, it is available on our YouTube channel, which you can find on our homepage, quick link. And then last week I attended a FEMA-led virtual tabletop exercise on security or cybersecurity with the other departments and offices in the county. Out of that, an action item for my office is to begin creating a crisis communications plan for the BoCC in the county. The auditor's office has one, a pretty strong one for if there's a issue with elections, but we knew that we needed to get one going and developing one, but this kind of brought it a little bit more urgency to it. And a crisis communications plan just kind of tells us who we need to communicate with, when we need to communicate with them, and providing the contact information for that. So that's kind of what a crisis communication plan does, is it tells us the sequence of who we need to contact and when we need to contact them. So more to come on that soon. Anything from me?
Anything for Megan?
Did we get an article about that Tuesday meeting out at Yelm? Was there ever any media coverage on it?
Nisqually Valley, or?
I will have to verify on that. I know that like Thurston Talk, I believe, and Nisqually Valley announced it, but I don't know if there was any coverage after the meeting.
I'm surprised, because
Yeah.
they're usually Johnny on the spot for things that are
It might
less
have been-
significant than that.
Well, it might have been because there was the Yelm City
The Yelm
Council
City
meeting.
Council meeting,
Yeah, so we'll be much more cognizant of that in the future, make sure that we're coordinating that with the city.
Okay.
But considering, I believe the
Considering.
the attendance was very good. And I was thinking in the beginning there was going to be a lot of public testimony, but really it was a lot of members of the public who just wanted to participate on your board meeting. So I thought it was very successful.
And a lot of thanks for being out in the community, which was nice.
Yeah, we've gotten some comments on Facebook and on our YouTube channel saying thank you for coming out there, so
Very good.
it's much appreciated.
Do you have anything for Megan? Nor do I at this point. And I'll meet with you after this if you wish
Okay,
to determine the next meeting in District 1.
okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you. Briefing, public hearing, decisions making, pending?
Nothing is pending, Commissioners.
All right, thank you. That takes us to the commissioner items. Number 1 is the Sheriff's Armored Protected Vehicle Bearcat purchase.
So the Sheriff's Office here is present, and as I mentioned earlier today, you have an agenda item for you to consider approving. giving the authorization to the Sheriff's Office to go ahead and purchase a Bearcat. That will be an armor protected vehicle for $301,000. Also stated that you received a briefing, I believe, probably 2-3 weeks ago, related as to the need of the Sheriff's Office to purchase this vehicle. And at that point, I believe the commissioners, my perspective, were amicable to that idea. But also, during that briefing, I believe that the Sheriff's Office was in the process of securing a grant, which was not successful. And here, the Sheriff's Office is to provide what will be the financial model in which this purchase can occur.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you? Tim Braniff, Under Sheriff at Thurston County Sheriff's Office, representing the sheriff and his staff. Basically, we've been pursuing the purchase of a armored vehicle for the SWAT team, which is a multi-agency SWAT team here in Thurston County, involving all 4 of the cities within the county plus the sheriff's office. And as Mr. Chavez had indicated, that we had tried to work through the port and a port security grant, marine security grant, which to no avail. We weren't able to get the grant. About a month ago, we were notified, a little over a month ago. And doing that, again, not just leaving it on the table, we continue to pursue ways to fund the Bearcat. A couple of the items that were on that grant and the equipment that was required by the grant for the marine security resulted in the cost at reaching about $378,000. Not going through a grant, we were able to reduce some of the cost and eliminate some of the equipment that was required by the federal government to a point that we believed that we could afford the grant. Afford the vehicle. And in doing so, we were able to basically, we're requesting that we utilize some funding that we have in our equipment and rental and reserves. One being that we have a old SWAT van. We refer to it as the bread truck. It is at its life expectancy, and we can turn that in, which we have the funds available for that, which rise to $125,000. Currently, we have a comm van, which is used for our hostage negotiation team, and it'll max out at its equipment and rental and reserve fund at the end of 2020, which Ms. Robin Campbell had indicated that we can transfer that funding over, because basically it's low miles, it's still in workable order, but we just won't replace it when the time comes, and we would transfer the funding for that, which is another $125,000. We were, which would get us to $250,000. We were able to reduce the cost to approximately $312,000, depending on some of the options and the optional equipment. So what we did was we met with our team leadership on the SWAT team, basically telling them, or asking them to prioritize what equipment was necessary, what wasn't. We came in from a range of $276,000 to $312,000, and we were able to get the cost down to $301,000 and some change. And the piece that was missing was some funding, about $49,000, which we were able to take $36,000 that we had. Hang on here. Yeah, it was $36,000 or $22,510 from the canine equipment and reserves, since the dogs that had already been purchased through another funding source. That was a grant that was provided to the agency and the canine program, so we could utilize that $22,000, and then about $27,000 to make up the difference for the cost, and which we're still working with the Chehalis tribe to help support some of that funding. Also, the Thurston County Narcotics Task Force and some of their funding, because this team is used to support some of their missions as well. If those two opportunities and funding don't prevail, Then we do have our contract funding that we received from the city of Bacota for contracted services that we use for either training or other various programs that we initiate within the sheriff's office, in which we would take some part of that funding to help support this. We believe that we have the funding, at the most it would be $301,000. Chief Pearsall, who will be presenting next week at the county commissioners meeting, his working with his partner that he at Burlington Northern to see if there's a grant available to transport the vehicle, which would save an additional $10,000 from the East Coast, and it's being purchased out of Massachusetts at the Lenco dealership. It does take about 7 to 8 months before this vehicle can be built, and so the timeline of delivery would be about April or May or March or April, hopefully sooner. But Chief Pearsall, who is our fleet representative for the agency with our fleet and here in Thurston County, is communicating that as well with the director of the fleet services down there at Tilly. And the MRAP, the armored vehicle that we currently have, that will either be returned to the military or surplus to another agency that is trying to pick up a vehicle for their own SWAT team or their own emergency response team. And so we'll lose basically the 2 assets to help recover some of the costs related to this.
That's the one you mentioned at the beginning, right?
Correct.
Okay, the guesstimates.
No, we have the bread truck, which
Oh.
is the SWAT van. That's the original SWAT van.
Oh, a SWAT van, okay.
And then we have the TRV, or the large SWAT vehicle that we currently have, and we'll basically dispose of both those assets.
$125 each, basically, is what you're estimating.
Yeah, the comm van is the second one for $125, but we'll keep the comm van because that's our hostage negotiation vehicle, and that vehicle is basically has low miles on it. It's still in great shape, and we still have maintenance and operational funding to help support that for oil changes, tires, and anything else that we may need on it. We just won't put the funding into replacing that. And the amount that we're using to replace in the ER&R for over a year period of time would basically we'd set it up to where we'd replace the Bearcat in approximately 12 years, which there'd be plenty of funding for. So it's just over $3,000, I believe it's $3,000 a month currently, which would get us to the amount we needed in 12 years to replace the Bearcat.
I have a bunch of questions, but I'll get to you. I want to follow up on what, I just want to understand the comm ban. You're not replacing it next year.
Correct.
You just will stop paying into the ER&R?
To replace it.
To replace
correct.
it.
Because the mileage is extremely low
Okay.
and is still in really good condition. There is another fund that helps pay for the maintenance of it, but we don't need to replace it at this time.
Okay. Do you have more? Go ahead, Gary.
I think if I had a preference as you move forward
I'll
on
let you guys go.
this, I don't know how to maneuvering funds around to make this all work, that if you had an opportunity to get money out of the narcotics end of things, because I know that's the bigger usage of that item, I think I'd kind of prefer that rather than taking that money from the Bacota fund.
Right. And that's our priority.
If possible.
Right, that's our
If it
priority
works
as
out.
well. It's working with the Lieutenant Rudloff, who's the commander of the drug
Okay.
task force at this time.
Okay.
And like I said, it's probably not going to be over 27,000 that's needed. But I think the key is if we get the grant for the transportation, that'll help reduce about 10,000 of that. And then any of the assistance that the tribe can provide as well to support some of the equipment on the option plan.
I mean, the Nexus is obviously you're not gonna have to use it at Joe's Tavern in Bacota.
Correct. Correct.
Any idea what kind of money you'd be looking at from, and maybe just set it 27,000 from the TNT?
No more than 27,000.
No more than, okay.
It's having that conversation with that board.
Okay. And this is a brand-new Bearcat. It will be
Correct.
built.
Correct.
And when you talked about, Under Sheriff, the SWAT team is a multi-agency. With the agencies bailing on the TNT, how many agencies are on the SWAT still?
We still have 4 from Olympia, 4 from Tumwater, 4 from Lacey, and 1 at this time from Yelm. And we've asked them to look at their budget to add an additional position.
That's encouraging to hear that. And when you surplus the bread truck, any idea when that will happen?
It won't happen until delivery, until we're ready.
Until next year,
Yeah.
okay, so there's no gap in there then?
Correct.
And what will you get from that? Is it 125,000?
In the ER&R? Yes.
Okay. And my final question at this point is the timing of all these things, with it coming out, with the surplusing, with the TNT and all that, is the timing's all going to work out?
Right, so we'll take delivery and have operational knowledge, I guess, if you will, of the new Bearcat before we release the other. And at a certain point, we'll get a schedule of the build-out for the new vehicle, and then a training session back there at the factory, and then the transportation, the training here with the team, and then we'll start releasing things. But we'll put that all on a schedule as soon as we have the schedule from Lenco. And we can't move forward on the Lenco schedule and the build-out until we provide them with a purchase order and to start that process.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to hear that there might be a BNSF grant for transport.
Correct.
Potentially, that's encouraging to hear.
And through the National Academy, one of Chief Pearsall's classmates has indicated they've done this before for a sheriff's office in the transportation, utilizing a grant to be able to transport it back. So we're going to seek out that same opportunity.
Perfect, perfect. Thanks. Are there any other questions, follow-up?
Was there any input Robin wanted to give us with respect to the overall budget?
No, I
impact?
think the question was, so let me see if I can frame everything, that maybe I can get to that question. So what I understand is there is in the ER&R there are 2 accounts to replace 2 vehicles.
Correct.
One is the existing Bearcat, and that replacement account has $125,000. And the surplus of that vehicle is going to be donated back to the military, or perhaps to another agency that can probably use that equipment.
So no, it'd be the SWAT van has 125.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to make sure.
So the current TRV SWAT vehicle is not on an ER&R schedule.
So there is an expectation that we can probably get at revenue by surplus, and the actual surplus and selling that vehicle, they can generate $125,000.
No.
Okay, that's what is a little bit,
Okay.
want to make sure that we're in.
So we have the SWAT van, which is the bread truck. It is maxed out in its ER&R crewing cost of $125,000.
Yeah, that one has $125,000. You're planning not to replace that, but to
Correct.
keep the asset.
We'll
because of
remove
the
that
mileage.
asset
Right.
and then use that $125,000 towards the new Bearcat. The second is the comm van, which is the hostage negotiation team van. That has, at the end of 2020, we'll have $125,000 in it. And we don't plan on removing that asset, but we plan on taking the $125,000 that's accrued and putting that towards the Bearcat and just maintaining the vehicle because it has low miles and low cost for maintenance and operation.
So
we'll
you,
continue to keep that.
so you have 2 vehicles.
The second vehicle would be the big TRV, the big giant SWAT vehicle that we have. That we would basically return that to the military or give that to another agency for surplus because we don't own that vehicle. It's through the DMRO program, and we can't sell that vehicle. We either have to give it to another agency or return it back to the military.
Okay, so the bottom line is the ER&R probably could have up to $250,000
Correct.
towards the purchase of the new Bearcat, right?
Correct.
And that leave us through the $301,000, about $51,000.
Correct.
And you stated savings of the K-9 reserve $22,000 on that unit because we have been putting money to replace the canine units of what do you call the dogs, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And we receive a grant that perhaps the replacement of the canine will be done by this grant.
Correct.
So then you have access to that replacement account of $22,000.
Yes.
Okay. And then the remainder, the $27,000, or thereabouts,
Yes.
just to make up the difference. You have either the Chehalis tribe is going to be contributing towards that, and I believe needs to be an agreement signed with them to be participants of the SWAT team. That's a different conversation, I
Right.
believe. And, or perhaps the TNT could consider funding this vehicle because the vehicle does provide services to the TNT enforcement.
Right.
And so at the end of the day, you're not planning, just, this is more of a leading statement, you're
To
not
use cost
planning
savings.
to use cost savings in your office to
Correct.
supplement the 27,000.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That was the question. Just to make sure there's not cost
That was a nice
savings.
walkthrough.
That was not cost savings within your office as part of this financial model.
Correct.
Yeah.
Have you any idea why the grant was not awarded?
According to, Dave, you can jump in here, but according to the Marine Security Grant Review process, they're no longer supporting the use of armored vehicles, land use armored vehicles. And their direction is towards boats and things like that, like we've received for our other boat with our partnership with the port. And the port, you know, basically was very willing to support this and help us through that process, and they spent, you know, a lot of time working through that process as well. Unfortunately, it's out of their hands, and it's reviewed by the Port Marine Security Committee up out of Seattle.
If I can just add on
You pass the microphone.
the
Could you introduce yourself just for the audience?
Dave Pearsall with the Sheriff's Office. On the current armored vehicle we have, we call it a TRV. It's a military surplus, and it's extremely difficult because it was built specifically for the military. It's extremely difficult to find parts for that. So far, we've spent $27,000 just trying to keep it running. We suspect the transmission's going to go out soon. It's very top-heavy and tippy, where this new vehicle's built on a F350 or 450 frame. I mean, it's meant to get around and do what we need. The other vehicle, we've had problems with it, you know, it's just so heavy on roads that it just doesn't stand up for what we want. So that's why we want to get rid of that. It's just not the ideal thing for us right now, where the Bearcat would be.
Just, I mean, back when we were talking about the grant, I asked a bunch of questions about the need and what you use it for and how often, and so I'm not going to go back into that because we went ahead and said go for that. I'm just looking at kind of what the financial arrangement is, and it seems reasonable. So I'm going to I assume trust you guys to know what vehicles you need in terms of this idea of not replacing one and using the other and
Right.
updating. I mean, you guys know what you need based on the money that's available.
Right, and I think the biggest thing, Commissioner, is that will reduce, by gaining this, will reduce two of our assets that either are costing a lot of extra money or we don't utilize as much as we should. So we've dwindled down the assets as much as possible for stuff, prioritizing our assets.
Fair enough.
Perfect. So it's on the agenda for next week. Do you need thumbs up from us now, or just keep it on the agenda?
Yeah, I'd like to ask direction from the board if you'd like to keep this item for your formal action next week. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Remain safe. Next is the Thurston Conservation District audit results, informational briefing.
Commissioners, if I may.
Certainly.
Item number 4 is related to the Pacific Mountain Workforce Gadget Program. And Cheryl Fembles is here, the Executive Director. If you like to probably move that item next.
Well, let me think. Okay.
So she's now waiting.
Oh, yeah. Come on up, Cheryl.
And
Hello.
you have an attachment related to this on your packet.
Gadget. And how much time do we have for this?
15 minutes.
15? Okay. Go. 'Cause I'm
Good
watching
m-
the clock.
I got it.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. Cheryl Fambles, CEO of the Pacific Mountain Workforce Development Council. Sitting with me today is Julie Baxter. She is the project manager for the opioid use recovery and response program, and she's going to be the one that'll give you the content around Gadget. Thank you so much for giving us this little bit of time. I've met both of Commissioner Hutchings and Edwards, and I have not yet had the pleasure to meet you, Commissioner Misner, but I'm anxious to spend any amount of time we need to familiarize you with the workings of Pac Mountain Workforce Council. So we do have some materials that'll do a little bit of that. I'm going to make some opening remarks, and then I'm going to turn it over to Julie. So workforce councils are all about finding workforce solutions for businesses, for individuals who are searching for work and or who are trying to enhance their careers. So there is no more sticky a problem that we are experiencing in our culture than the opioid addiction. And so last year when Pac Mountain received an amount of money from the U.S. Department of Labor to attend to the opioid addiction, we set about looking for a workforce solution, because that's what we do. We do workforce development. And we know that young people and vulnerable young people, all young people that are impacted by opioids are certainly vulnerable, but there are subsets of them that are even more vulnerable. And so we ask our very smart, capable staff to come up with a way to respond to the crisis in a productive way specifically for young people. So we named that gadget. It used to be called Peppy, and when we went through our first cohort of students, they didn't like Peppy. I thought it was kind of a cool name, but obviously that's a boomer thing and not a millennial thing. So Peppy didn't work, but Gadget does. And so I'm going to ask Julie Baxter to tell you a little bit about Gadget, and then to get right to an ask about why we're here today, so that you might be able to consider whether or not you want to directly involve Thurston County in the Gadget program.
Just for the record, I prefer Gadget over Peppy.
Well, maybe that's your more millennial leaning than us
My
boomers.
inner child.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, go, Julie. Unless you have any questions up front. Okay.
Well, it is a pleasure to be here with you this morning. Thank you for having us, first of all. Cheryl did a nice little overview of what the Our Alliance project is. That's, again, the Opioid Use Reduction and Recovery Alliance, which is the overarching program that Gadget is a part of. So Gadget is, you have some materials in front of you if you'd like to reference this at any point. Gadget is really focusing on providing wraparound holistic employment readiness training and internships to young adults with high barriers to employment. Really what we're looking at is young adults ages 18 to 24 who may not have had a lot of opportunity to get into the workforce at this point in their life. They may be facing high barriers such as homelessness. They most likely have been impacted by the opioid crisis in one way, shape, or form, either themselves, but especially through family and friends, and definitely as a community member. You know, everyone who lives in our communities has been impacted in one way, shape, or form by that opioid crisis. This holistic employment readiness program is focused on providing wraparound supports for these individuals as they move through training into internships, and our long-term goal, which is always our goal under workforce development, is to get them on a career pathway into short-term or long-term employment that will provide them a career pathway to continue moving on in the workforce. Because of the population that we're working with, we're really focusing on providing wraparound supports. So that includes case management as they move through the training program and also into an internship placement. These wraparound supports often look like general check-ins, accountability measures to make sure that they're following through on what they need to follow through on.
It could be removal of employment barriers, and that could be anything from transportation to get to and from training and employment, to providing things such as work boots or tools that they may require on the job. For us, this is really focused on supporting a highly impacted group within the community as part of that opioid response. We are really hoping to bring on employers as host sites within this work to ensure that those employers are not only providing an opportunity into work for these young adults, but also as a way to develop a streamlined way for those employers to look at developing a labor pool of their own. We know that internships and work experience often provide really great experiences for those individuals who may not have had employment history in the past. Providing those internships is a way for employers to not only try before they buy, as it were, but it's also an opportunity for those employers to provide spaces where they get to develop the skills that they're looking for in long-term employees, and also provide some mentorship in that space to continue developing interest in the fields and industries that they're currently working in. So what is Gadget? This is, as Cheryl mentioned, a renaming of our PEPI pilot program. The youth, as she mentioned, came up with the Gadget acronym, which we're very proud of. We're always happy to have participant voice in the programming. So Gadget is an acronym that means Gainful and Dependable Goal-Oriented Employment Training. It's a mouthful. You all need to know Gadget. So this is, again, a holistic wraparound employment training service program that includes 40 hours of employment readiness training, including the soft skills that we know are so important for employers these days, such as communication, showing up on time, making sure that those youth know how to present themselves in a professional workplace. It also includes wraparound barrier removal support, engaged employment-focused case management, and a 120 to 150 hour paid internship. This is really where we are asking for assistance from all of our partners to help us find site placements, internship site placements for these young adults. For us, we're really focusing on Thurston County and Mason County, but Thurston County in specific is where we know there's a high proportion of these young adults facing barriers to employment. We've had success during our PEPI pilot program partnering with the City of Olympia. We know that there's a pool of young adults in the area that could be significantly interested not only in this program, but in long-term employment with public agencies. We're really looking to provide internship placements that are mentorship-based, that can focus on providing that little bit extra support that these young adults may need to continue finding a place within the workforce for potentially the first time. And we're also looking for those employers to be able to host a number of interns at once. So ideally 3, but we're not opposed if someone wants to go ahead and say, we want to host 15. We're more than happy to find additional participants to fill those slots. But really 3 is the minimum that we're looking for. And that's really to focus the support for those interns as they're going through that internship placement in the peer model. So they can connect with their peers and say, hey, I'm having this problem. How would you handle that? It's a model that we have found to work exceptionally well historically. So the ask in this space is where we are really focused on governmental, public, nonprofit, and other employers that can provide the type of mentorship support and host those internship placements in early 2020. For us, that timeline looks like identifying those employers, ideally no later than early November, and have those slots the number of slots and the type of slots identified for interns by late November. So that could be, historically, we've done alignment with the City of Olympia's maintenance department to do landscaping and other maintenance support roles. It could be administrative roles where you have someone in an office setting. You know, really the sky is the limit on where and what type of placement these young adults could benefit from. And we always do our utmost to ensure that the fit is not only right for the participant, but also the employer. If there's not a fit, it's not a success. So we will take the slots that we are given and ensure that the participants that we place in those spaces are the right fit and will benefit from those slots as well.
I'm going to pause right there
Sure.
and just underscore. I want to underscore that point.
Can I get that right up?
Yes.
To the show.
Yeah. The idea that these are youth who need additional support is absolutely on our minds. But we also know that as we approach employers have work to do. And so we believe that we can get this high barrier group of young people ready to meet the needs of employers. And if we can't do that, as Julie said, we consider that a failure. That has not always been true of workforce development. I think in the past, workforce development has been exclusively focused on the job seeker or the career builder, irrespective of what the employer needed. And that has created, I think, an idea that workforce development is social service. And we have great social service partners, so no disrespect to them and to that work. But workforce development is it's an economic driver, land, labor, and capital. So it is about the economy. And so if employers can't get what they need from the resource that we're developing, then we've not done a good job. So yes, this is going to help these high need, high barrier, vulnerable young people, but we also want it to work for the placement so that this isn't, it's not charity.
Are we saving questions till the end?
Yeah, please.
Excellent. So our ask in this space is, again, to find employers with slots that may be interested in hosting some of these internships in early 2020. For us, it's really about, as Cheryl mentioned, supporting those employers and their needs. So developing out a labor pool of their own with the skills that they would like to see in those folks that they're hiring. It's also a simple way to set up an internship. Pag Mountain takes care of the back end. It is subsidized, so the employers don't necessarily have to worry about that on their end. That is something that we take on our end for the first year. We also are asking those employers to consider a long-term plan. If they have slots for the first year, that's fantastic. We will absolutely partner with any employer who is looking to provide those internship slots. But we're also looking to build a bigger, longer, sustainable program that could provide additional supports, not only for the youth or young adults that are going through this, but also for those employers long-term to continue building out that labor pool. So any employers who are interested in exploring longer-term internship opportunities, we're also open to having discussions with as well. So we do have some additional information happening in employer-focused calls. You have information in front of you about when those occurred. We just had one this morning. We also have one upcoming on September 25th. So the ask in this space is, one, thank you for listening to us. So the ask was to be able to come in and share a little bit with what we have going on with all of you. It is also to continue conversation. So if there's space where there may be opportunity to partner either with the county or with agencies within the county, we would like to continue those conversations. If there are spaces that you are all aware of that may be with additional partners, cities, agencies, whatever that may be, we're also hoping to get additional spaces for connection through this as well. So without further ado, if Cheryl has nothing else to add.
Questions? Here we go.
Questions?
Yeah, I know you do. I do have a couple.
Just a couple. Why is the focus on public and government, nonprofit and not private employment? I mean, I just saw that in your list.
That's an excellent question. So part of what we were looking at for this first full implementation, as I noted, we had a pilot program this past summer, was agencies and employers that may have capacity to provide the support to these young adults, that mentorship support within the workplace. We're not opposed to private employers, but based on the conversations that we've had with our partners within the public entities, historically, they've been excellent partners in that space. So thinking strategically about partnering within that space was targeting the public and governmental agencies. Again, we're not opposed to private employers if they have capacity and ability to support those needs.
And when Julie talks about capacity, remember we talked about a minimum of 3. So if we've got an employer that will, a private sector employer that will go 3 at a time, and they can provide meaningful experience, we would absolutely look at that. Because most of our employers in the region are pretty small, it's much more challenging for them to create 3 slots. And we need that cohort to stay together to provide support to one another.
Okay. Second question was about so on the what is gadget sheet, it says 120 to 150 hour paid internship. That's what you're trying to create, but then you talked about the first year and having long-term plans. I'm trying to, like, what exactly do the employers need to be committing to?
Excellent. So thank you for that question. The 120 to 150 hour paid internship is the subsidized internship for the first year. That's what we have budgeted for those internships for the first year per participant. However, if there are employer partners that are willing to, add to that pool and they want a 6-month internship rather than potentially a 3-month internship, and they're willing to also put in for the wages for those folks as they're going through the internship program, we're absolutely open to partnering in that space as well. This is really about targeting the employer's needs. So if there's a better model that the employer can bring to the table and say, this is what fits best for us, we absolutely want to have that conversation.
The year period is a function of when the dollars go away, so that's more the universe of possibility, the time frame for that. But the money that we have is the 120 to 150 amount.
Gotcha.
And we can chop that up however suits an employer's needs.
Okay.
The universe of possibility. Commissioner Edwards.
Well, the public-private question's already been asked. I am curious, is there a percentage of, where you're looking for 3 interns to be added, is there a percentage of normal FTEs that you're looking to kind of fill in? Does there need to be 10 or 50? Or I'm wondering how many FTEs an operation might have to take on 3 of your interns, and would your idea be that those 3, you made it sound like they need internal support amongst themselves. Is that what it's about, or could 2 of them be in this position over here, and 1 over here, or 1, and 1, or how does that work?
Yeah, excellent question. So we are open to, if you have 1 in one place and 1 in a different place, so long as they have the ability to connect at some point, we are open to breaking those 3 slots up into different roles or responsibilities within the employer.
I guess the reason I'm asking, our campus is spread out, so we've got the health department on the other side of town, and road department, down the road 10 miles. So
Absolutely.
What do you mean by connect? They maybe wouldn't, and maybe planning over here, so they wouldn't be in a normal office environment where they would be interacting probably at all. They could connect after work or something, but.
Absolutely.
So trying to make that fit.
If that's the case, then we can build in opportunities for them to connect throughout the internship. You know, if that's a set aside time once a week that they meet for an hour and do some peer support, we can build that in.
And do they have a counselor or something that kind of coordinates this activity with them?
Yes, each participant will be assigned a case manager, and that case manager will ensure that they have their employment barrier needs met on the back end outside of work, and also provide connection to additional services and coordinate that connection time.
And I guess maybe to the county manager, we're listening to this presentation, does this kind of fall in with the 10% to 15% adjustment we are talking about making at next week's meeting? Are you familiar with what I'm talking about there?
Not necessarily.
Under
because
Public Works?
Yeah, the apprenticeship that you may
the
be
apprenticeship,
considering
yes.
is a little bit different. That's an apprenticeship, a specific skill set that we need during construction projects. This is more of an internship.
Intern.
It's more of a learning
Okay.
opportunity, as I understand.
I just wondered if they could be one and the same or work together.
Not
No,
likely.
no.
Okay,
Not
good enough.
likely.
Because the 15% that you may be considering, that is a requirement that will be put in on a contractor.
State certified.
A state certified
apprenticeships.
contractor to give us that 15% of their labor hours in apprenticeship. Here's more a county partnership with Pac Mountain, as I understand it.
We are very supportive and excited about apprenticeship utilization as well, so that's terrific. Glad to hear that you're considering that.
Go ahead, maybe I'll come up with.
More, okay. So whether it be Gadget or Pepe, Pac Mountain's been doing this for some time. And so how many current employers do you have between Thurston and Mason?
So we've done one pilot program. We had the pleasure of partnering with City of Olympia as our employer placement for 6 youth that went through. Six youth that went through earlier in the year. So they.
This year?
This year, yes. So they went through the training very early in the spring, and then transitioned straight into the internship placements with the city, and they worked as a cohort under the maintenance department to provide support in that space.
Okay, so this would be new, having history with Thurston County.
Brand new.
Brand new, okay.
Exciting.
And the 40-hour training, what's that cost to put on? Do you have any
Wow.
idea, just kind of a rough estimate?
Sure. So we have generally per participant that is, I would say about $100 for supplies, and then we can get a better estimate as far as what that looks like. We provide that training as part of our regular programming. That's our signature uplift training that provides career readiness for young adults and youth moving into the workplace. So.
Okay, so now Thurston County, we give money to Pac Mountain, don't we?
Not that I'm aware of.
We don't?
Nope.
No,
Okay.
you have a contract with us for jail services.
Yeah.
That's what it is then.
Yeah, so we come in and provide through our PrEP program, and we have a counselor, Leon Ross, who comes in and does workforce development training, and then support for those individuals that are on work release.
Okay, that's what it was.
It's a fee for service, it's not a contribution.
Okay.
Correct.
So you're not seeking any money, you're just seeking opportunity for interns?
Yes, we would love to be able to say that 6 more of our youth were placed in Thurston County, similar to what we did in City of Olympia. We're talking to Commissioner Trask in Mason County and the PUD. We're trying to find employers that we think would be good sites. You know, I came out of public service, Julie is a veteran, and we believe strongly in public service. And we know that there's a struggle with young people identifying with the values of the public service, and anything that we can do. So part of the question that is not a disrespect to private sector employers, but we do a lot of work with private sector employers. We are the state capital, and we just think it's valuable to have a cadre of young people coming up who knows something about public service, the diversity of it, the wonderful opportunities for movement, and the sustainability of it. So would love to have that kind of placement for these young people.
Go ahead.
I guess maybe I'm kind of leaning towards looking to the county manager because apparently you're talking to us, but you maybe haven't talked to our different department directors and other elected officials yet, right?
That's correct. This is our first, we made an overture to Romero. We also spoke to Commissioner Hutchings, who sits on the Pac Mountain Board. We've talked with Josh, and what we felt was, let's get in front of the commissioners, see if you like it, and then you can direct further. And I hope that there are others who hear this presentation and then, call Julie, send an email, something that say, hey, what about that gadget program? We think we would be a good place for that. More than happy to continue any conversations with
Okay, that's kind of why I'm looking to the county manager, I guess, to see what
Go ahead,
we got
Romero.
pending.
Well, I just have a couple of clarifying questions, if I may. Commissioner Messer asked the question, what are the 120, 150 hours paid? That is a subsidy, let's call that, from Pac Mountain to whomever employees up to, between 120, 150 per year.
That's a great question. So it's actually, we cover the wages for those participants. We
No,
manage
okay.
payroll, so there's no fiscal.
No fiscal transaction. So if,
Transaction that needs to happen.
and you also requested at least consider the county to make 3 intern positions as a first step. So if I can equate the two, so the subsidy will cover just about a week and a half of the 3 individuals.
That is per participant.
Okay, that is per person.
Yes.
So it will be just about 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks per individual. Okay, that's good. Just
For
curious.
full-time. We also
Yeah.
look at part-time for these individuals as well. So that can really be fleshed out however it needs to based on the employer needs and the right fit for that position.
Okay.
Uh,
And, sorry.
Go ahead. No, I thought you were right. Well, just thinking about, what's the compensation scale? I mean, is there some different compensation scale that fits in here that you guys cover for the apprentice, or?
So the minimum wage, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, maybe,
What is
maybe
the-
it would compared to what our people make as a regular represented, by a union or something.
So again, excellent question. We generally, for the internships that we do under Pac Mountain, it's minimum wage. However, that is negotiable based on where the county feels the compensation should be. So for example, historically, we have had employers that have bumped that up a little bit to be more in line with what they would offer in a different internship placement.
A group like ours, say the county, at the county level, with, 1,000 employees or whatever, are we expected, or if you were successful, would you expect that these interns would be then blended in with our employment workforce at some point, or go on to some other activity or education?
We really are hopeful that they are equipped to go into the workforce. Does that mean
Wherever.
Wherever that leads to.
There is no requirement that this is a feed into it's different than an on-the-job training. When you execute an agreement with us for an on-the-job training contract, what you're saying is, we have a vacancy and we think this is a good person to put into that, we're gonna hire them and then we'll subsidize wage. This is an internship program that says, we want to give them some experience, we want to give them some skills, we want to give you a look-see at them, but at the end of it,
There's
we're
no
all,
obligation.
yes, it is what it is.
Okay, Romero.
Yes, so going back to, and you stated that it will be great for the county to commit by late November of this year on a specific 3 positions. Is it your expectation those 3 positions will begin on January 1st?
No, great
Okay.
question. So that's a little bit flexible. Currently, we have 2 cohorts for the training because those young adults will go through the training. early in the new year. So the work experience beginning dates can be flexible based on that. So at this point, it could be early February, mid-February. However, if that needs to shift a little bit, let's say you have opportunities more in the spring, we can talk about doing opportunities later in the spring.
Yeah, and the reason is because when we consider internships is mainly during the late spring, summer months. In road operations, there's actually an opportunity, but it's just defined. So that's what I'm trying to clarify your expectations, because it's early in the year. I don't think it's going to be efficient because we don't have those opportunities for the type of work that we need on an internship basis. So it has to be probably right in the middle of the year.
Sure.
Is that?
Yeah, I think that if we need to have additional conversations about aligning with that existing timeline, then let's have those conversations and see what we can work out. Again, this is really focused on
No,
what
I'm
works
just
for
trying to
you.
get that
Yeah.
information, so when if the commissioners agree with this approach, for me to engage the director, so I can give the parameters as to what need to, I know that additional conversations need to occur. I just want to have a clear expectation as to what your ask is.
It works for us to have summer placements.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
And lastly, I'm sorry.
Hang on, I want you to finish. Quit being interrupted.
I have already engaged your HR director, and I believe, I don't know if she has already attended one of these workshops that you have outlined in here, but I will follow up with Maria. My humble perspective, I believe this is a good program. We have internship opportunities throughout the year. 1,100 employees we can benefit from this, obviously, and also we can benefit to the community as well.
Have any follow-up?
Yeah, I like it. It seems well thought out, and I hope we can participate. Parks seems like an obvious place where we have seasonal positions, we have a need, a lot of work to be done, kind of work that I would imagine young people would be interested in getting outside and helping build our park system. That's just one idea, but I'm sure there's others we could ferret out if we talk to our directors.
Final thoughts?
Yeah, I just see quite an opportunity here where our supervisors will easily recognize amongst these young people if this person is a fit, for an example. Do they show up for work every day? You know, are they on time? Different crucial elements to running an efficient operation. And then, you know, it's either going to fit, and yeah, that person, even if that person doesn't fit in this particular slot, you know, we know, well, over here, we'll look at their work ethic, you know, and that'll fit.
So one
Sounds good.
logistical question, and let's assume that perhaps the county has opportunities in road operations or parks, and they need to report to the Tilly campus, which is located on Tilly Road, where is not a bus line access to that. Would you be providing transportation for those individuals, or how that would work?
Yes.
Yes, so yes, we will ensure that the participants get where they need to be
Okay.
as far as their work site is concerned. That is part of those wraparound
Yeah.
services that we provide them.
Because if we have an expectation to show up at 8 in the morning or 6 in the morning, if you don't have the means, they're
Yep.
going to be disqualified anyway.
Right, that's correct. And we will pay attention to that. We do have some young people where that would not be a good fit. And we will be upfront with you on that. We don't have anybody that fits right now that can go into that slot. And that's an honest and truthful way to deal with that.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheryl, you're always welcome here. And Julie, now that you've hooked up with Cheryl, you're welcome anytime now, too. You know your stuff, and you're well-spoken, so thank you very much.
Do you have a business card?
Me too, yes.
Excellent question.
Good. Thank you all very much. Appreciate the partnership and the opportunity to keep talking, so thank you.
Thank you very much. That was worthwhile, thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Nice meeting you. Thank you.
Have a good day, gentlemen.
Safe travel.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you.
Thurston Conservation District audit results.
Yeah, this is a follow-up, I believe, by a request. You knew that the Thurston Conservation District was going through a state audit. And that was finalized back in August 19, 2019, here recently. And the period of the audit was between January 1st, 2015 and December 31st, 2018. So it covers just about 4 years. And let me give you just the briefing as I read the report. The audit results, they didn't find any fundamental flaws on how they conduct. Is in most of the areas, as they stated, the state auditor, district operations comply with applicable laws, regulations, and its own policies, provided adequate controls over safeguard and public resources. But also before that conclusion was made, the state auditor sent a letter on July 25th, 2019 to the Thurston Conservation District, where they found what I call this is not a fundamental flaws, but opportunity as to how they can put the brackets around and managing their business. That is included in your packet as well, July 25th letter. And in that letter, outlined some of payroll disbursements. They needed to have a little bit of internal controls, and it speaks about mileage reimbursement. It doesn't have a retroactive approach. It has to be more proactive. The reimbursement of and again, just mileage and meals, it was a little bit, they need to put a little tighter controls. Also, the use of credit cards were also stated as they need to provide more internal controls within. This is the state auditors, okay? And also the cash receipts, they need to provide additional internal controls. Also included in your packet is the August 8th, 2018 response from the Thurston Conservation District to the July 25th, 2018 State Auditors District, which they walk through as to the steps they need to take or they have taken in some of the areas that perhaps was a past practice and is not going to be a practice as they move on. I don't want to go through in detail. I'm sure there's a lot of information that you may find this, but this is just in gist of what the audit was provided. The state auditors didn't find any findings, and the findings are defined when there's structural issues. But they did have some areas where the Thurston Conservation District needs to put additional internal controls. They outlined that on the July 25th, 2018 letter. In the response from the Thurston Conservation District, they have already addressed some of the internal controls.
I see Bryson
questions?
was on this.
Yep.
Bryson Bristol. Good kid. Comments, questions?
I'll take a look at it before.
Sounds like they're taking corrective measures to.
They take, it's my understanding, they have acknowledged the areas, either they're correcting the internal controls, or those practices will no longer be part of their business.
Yep.
Capitol Lake project update.
A couple of weeks ago, and this is I'm going to go through this packet for you. Commissioner Hutchins, as he serves on the executive committee of the Capitol Lake Estuary Project, met with representatives from the DES, the Department Enterprise Services from the state, and as well as Robin Campbell, myself. And the gist of the conversation was how the funding of the environmental impact statement should be done. As you may recall, They did request additional funding in the past legislative session. They didn't receive all the funding. They have only $2.5 million funded, I believe, 2.5, 2.8. And that was never intended to fully fund the environmental impact statement. And as right now where it sits, is costing about $6.4 million to continue the process to move forward. There is a couple of requests. They materialized during that meeting, and that is related to how the department or enterprise services can include a request to the next legislative session as part of the governor's budget. And the first, I'm going to call hurdle, or they need to pass is the Office of Financial Management, or OFM, at the state. That is, the OFM is the clearinghouse from all the departments in the state. This serves as a clearinghouse as to what elements and what requests will go on the governor's budget leading into the next legislative session. So the DES approached OFM in this additional request for additional funding on the next legislative session. OFM asked the question, where is the local match or the local contribution? So through this process, the conversation was in the request that the county, among all the other stakeholders, which include the city of Olympia, Tumwater, Thurston County, Lott, and the Port of Olympia. Those are the five big stakeholders that we have on this project. And number 6 is Squaxin Island Tribe. They're considered to be whether a stakeholder or perhaps a key player on the whole project. And the intent was as to how perhaps the local match or the local requirement will be about $300,000, and that was the request to fund. So it was at this point is, as I understand it, and you can correct me, Commissioner Hutchins, is a two-step process. Is I believe in the upcoming executive meeting you will be attending, I believe is this week.
I don't know.
Or maybe next week, is where it's going to be the Department of Enterprise Services is going to be crafting a letter of commitment on the concept. All the stakeholders will be willing to participate financially up to $300,000. That is step number 1, meaning if that is sufficient enough to OFM, then that request will move into the governor's budget. And then, as you know, when they submit it to the legislature, then the legislature will have to see how that is going to have to be.
But remind me, it's not, the idea is the local jurisdictions would not be contributing toward the EIS because of conflict issue, but it was for something separate. Implementation plan or something, or hiring a consultant.
Yeah,
I forget
so
what the $300,000.
The $300,000, and perhaps at that point the approach was if it's 6 stakeholders, including the Squaxin Island Tribe, will be about $50,000. In the $50,000 may be somewhat of an in-kind, a little bit in-kind service outside of the pure EIS process. Meaning whether we can fund public hearings or we can fund that type of periphery activities, because you're right. How we can probably fund, an EIS that perhaps in each jurisdiction may have a different perspective as to what the outcome will be, right? And I think that's what he's referring to, not to influence the outcome by participating financially. But it is an opportunity, I believe, the DES is requesting for a partnership. The local jurisdictions can participate on the $300,000, yet to be defined and the means and methods of that.
Right.
And that is, at this point, is the two-step approach, as I understood, is perhaps the county may consider signing a letter of commitment to participate among the other stakeholders on the $300,000 local match for this project. That if that is sufficient, OFM will include in the governor's budget. That is submitted with the $300,000 from the local partners, in addition to, I believe it's another $3 million request.
And what I was talking about is under this last bullet here on this first page. Just so we're all clear, it's basically saying Enterprise Services does not believe the EIS is the appropriate place for local stakeholders to contribute. So they propose an alternative, and they estimate about $285,000 worth of legal and governance support for the workings of the funding and governance work group, tangential to.
Yeah.
And that's where they think that we can make a good faith
Yeah, it's the periphery actions that we can support.
local
Absolutely.
local commitment to this process.
Yeah.
Because we're asking for a ton of money from the legislature
Right.
to finish this study.
So if if the board approves and supporting the concept, at this point, it's just the concept of a $300,000 local contribution along with the other 5 partners. That will be the concept, and that will be a letter that might be coming to you, perhaps to sign. And I believe at that point is the chair will sign it. That's the step number 1, and that's probably what I would like to hear from you, whether is that something you'll be interested in. Now, when and if comes, an actual financial contribution, that will be determined how the legislative session goes next year. And as you know, just because the governor submits a budget, that doesn't mean it gets funded as such. Then at that point, we'll know the specifics of the additional funding, if there's any specific funding. And then even at that point, we'll know the future, or perhaps the next step of this process. Because they were very clear, based on the current funding, they will not be able to provide a document, an EIS, that is legally defensible. And that was the message. Based on the funding they have right now, they will not be able to produce a document, an EIS document, that is legally defensible.
Questions, go ahead.
Well, by legally defensible, what, are they thinking that there's litigation coming? Is that what they're working on?
For instance, the legally defensible concept, they have the opportunity to look as to what that really means. It's not necessarily about somebody litigated against the document. Legally defensible is whether they can cover all the different areas on an EIS. And in your packet, I believe I included some of the areas they perhaps can include, it cannot include on the legally defensible. And it's right here in terms of the dollars and cents. And let me take, for instance, they can probably cover water quality, right? Under the $2.4 million. But they may not be able to fully cover silt migration into the sound. So it really goes down to the level of detail and the elements of the EIS they can cover or not within the current allocation. That is the concept of legally defensible. Because producing a document that doesn't cover all the different areas that impact, this project may impact, that is the legally defensible document. It's not appropriate.
Okay, but my concern is, we sent a letter to Enterprise Services asking them to include the upper areas of the headwaters of the Deschutes, basically. I thought they said they couldn't do it.
Because they don't have money.
The money wasn't there.
Well, but what's the point if we're gonna, not even look and consider what are contributing factors? What's the point of moving forward with this thing? Because that's kind of my whole concern on that chemical application by the timber industry. So if they can't tell us how come there's algae growing in the river that's 2 feet long that never used to be there 50 years ago, I mean, what's the point? I think Lot has a lot of involvement here, because Lot's got an outflow problem, and when it combines with what's coming out of Capitol Lake, it's twice the problem, apparently. And so I don't see that we ought to stick, I mean, we either go forward and do the whole thing. I don't think we ought to be involved in a halfway study. I'd use another term. We're on TV, I guess, but.
Well, that, and they being the state, don't have the money to fund a full head-to-toe study. That's been determined.
Well.
And to be determined still, whatever further monies come, would be a discussion as to who has more of a stake in this game than each other. For example, the port, Tumwater, Olympia, Thurston County, Squaxin, whomever, as the contribution and such, to get it further down the road. That might be, like you said, like Romero said, a defensible EIS, but it's not going to be a full complete from the headwaters on down. It won't be.
And to me, that just leaves us in a quandary of what's going to happen 20 years from now. We're going to have the same problem all over again if we don't address what I feel is a potential problem, because I feel that water quality is a big piece of this, too much nitrates in there, and possibly we could even have what testing we do as maybe being in kind at some point towards contributing to this. Rather than put money into it, I'd rather have our own people that could do water quality testing. Let us know what's coming, because right now there's no baseline and nobody knows what comes out of the headwaters of the Deschutes, and that is my concern.
Do you want to address some of that stuff?
Yeah, the request is not to, it's really a financial request. At this point, there is not a conversation on the details as to whether the county can provide water quality testing or not, whether that can be part of the in-kind services. The intent of the Department of Enterprise Services is to complete a document that now has a price tag of $6.4 million. They don't have that money. And in order to secure additional funding through the legislature, there needs to be included this request in the governor's budget. And in order to have included in the governor's budget, the OFM has requested to partner with the local jurisdictions. That is really at this point they ask. I am not in the, yeah, it's a financial strategy. I am not in the position to answer the detailed questions that you have, Commissioner Edwards, related to the EIS. Because even they don't know at this point how much more work they need to do to complete this legally defensible EIS.
As far as other participants, I'd like to see the Department of Ecology contribute. They license this fertilizer application that goes on and throughout the forest, throughout the whole Cascade Range. DNR administers it, and the state fish department, the state game and fish department also are involved in overseeing, and I don't see that they're being asked to contribute anything to this particular very serious water quality issue. It looks like everybody wants to just put their head in the sand when it comes to challenging the corporate involvement. And that's kind of where
With their head in the silt.
silt, whatever.
I went through my calendar this morning, this week and next. We didn't see this topic, and I just went through the entire month to include your birthday week, and didn't see this coming up. But I'll have Kelly double check.
Yeah, we'll double check because I
Make
believe
sure.
there is an executive meeting was coming up in September.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
When you say executive, when you say executive meeting, what do you mean by that?
Executive meeting, all the representatives
Oh,
from all the
okay.
different
Executive.
jurisdictions. Commissioner
Okay.
Hutchins
I thought you were
represents
trying
the
to do
board.
something
The CL-DE.
not open to the public, I was afraid.
Oh, it is open to the
No,
public.
I know that.
It's televised and open, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Go ahead, Ty.
You wanted our input. I mean, I support this approach because without saying one way or the other, Commissioner Edwards I think there's still opportunity to pursue what he's looking to pursue as we seek the money from the legislature, the expanded scope. I think we should continue to push for all the information that is relevant, absolutely. But what we do know, without a doubt, is that the Capitol Lake is essential is an essential component of water quality in South Puget Sound, and fixing the problem is integral to our efforts at salmon recovery and shellfish industry and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I get very nervous about the concept of trying to engineer a very complex ecosystem without, absolute full information. That goes to Commissioner Edwards' point, but I certainly don't want to be trying to make decisions like that on a halfway, shoestring budget for this document. We need this information. This is complex, and I'm just, I'm kind of at the point of it, like I am with the HCP, where I'm just kind of fed up. This has gone on way too long. The public is understandably and rightfully just frustrated and outraged that the wheels of government are moving at this space. And I understand it's complex with the different jurisdictions, but we have to move forward aggressively to figure this out and solve this problem and get this done. So if this is the recommended approach, I think it's reasonable and I would support it.
That's it. You looking for thumbs up, or you looking for just
No,
a briefing?
because a letter is going to be drafted in support of the concept. And in that letter, it will be your signature as the chair, and obviously you can assign independently of the board's concurrence of majority.
Okay.
So that's what I'm asking.
I give thumbs up.
You got pressure to do it.
I'm not in favor of moving forward without letting them know, and I might take this on myself, is to write an independent letter from myself, that I feel they're shirking their responsibilities by not going after all the facts to educate all the decision makers on everything. This business about we don't have enough money, I look at it as we don't have enough of a priority, or we just don't want to know what's going on up there in the headwaters.
Well, that brings up two things. Number one, you're not, you said willing to go ahead without them knowing. And number one, we told them that in our meeting, and I'm not opposed to telling them that in a public session either. That's number one. Number two, if you wanted to attend, you could, and state during public comment time.
Well, no, because when it's going to come down to it, pretty soon somebody's going to be asking about some money being contributed and whatnot.
So if a commissioner decide to attend, let me know, because
of
that's a
course, of
quorum.
course. Yep.
And we need to make sure we capture, because business is going to be discussed in there.
Absolutely. I just want to make you feel comfortable that you have
Yeah, no, I realize that.
every
It's just
opportunity to do that.
I feel that the main players involved here don't want to get to the bottom of this, to be honest with you. I think there's too much corporate oversight here. We're talking about billions of dollars of adjustment in economic activities. If this was shown to be a problem, I think it matches exactly to what went on with the tobacco industry when they were telling Congress, oh, hey, this nicotine is good stuff. We all know where that went.
So you'll be coming with a letter then? You're going to come up with a letter?
Well, I'm waiting for them, because they were going to produce that letter that includes the signatures of all the partners. So I will not be producing that letter.
Then we'll respond to that.
Yeah, and I believe that letter is going to be introduced at the next executive session.
Okay. I got to find out what that daggone thing is. Okay. Anything further, Gary?
No.
Anything further? Anything, Robin? No? Romero, anything to clean up?
No.
All right, then we're concluding the work session.
Oh, we're not going into commissioners'
Oh,
items.
commissioner items. Oh, public testimony too. Good grief.
I thought you were asking if there's additional comments on the item.
Go ahead.
No, as I mentioned to you, I will be giving you a draft response of the latest letter from Mr. Pettit for you to review, and I will respond on your behalf.
Okay.
And this relates to trying to remember which issue we discussed.
This is related to whether the signature as to form of the bond counsel attorney really invalidates the action that you took as a Board of County Commissioner.
Yep.
and it doesn't. The state law doesn't require, when you act in a legislative
Capacity.
action, to have an attorney's signature or prosecuting attorney's signature. That is not required. What we do internally is to provide you with an assurance when a legal review has been made, for you to have all the information available to you to take any legislative action. And that's the gist of the conversation, the response letter.
There was one point where Mr. Pettit had brought up certain just almost like clerical errors or typos, references to sections or missing dollar amount and stuff. Was there any, I can't remember if we responded to that or if there was something that we did need to correct as a result of that, pointing that out.
Are you referring to the document that
It was
he
a month or
was
two ago.
Yeah. quite some time
last
ago.
week? Or?
No, a couple months ago, one of his letters or emails talked about how there were some in the ballot, in the proposed.
We responded to that.
Okay, we did respond to that,
On the
okay.
previous response, we responded to the.
And remind me, was there a correction that needed to be made?
I think what some of the elements that he described, whether it really was you authorize to the county manager to fill in the blanks of the ballot measure. That was number one. And it does because the way the whole ballot measure is depending on the valuation of the properties in Thurston County, and it will be too premature to put a dollar amount on the 2019 valuation because in 2020 will change. We addressed that, and also he stated that perhaps it was a misstep on the sections, because it was a missing section A and perhaps a section B. And that was a scriber's error, as was stated. There was nothing behind that, or it was not a missing piece of legislation related
But we
to that.
can clean that up at the appropriate time?
Yeah, if you can, or you don't have to, because that really doesn't have any bearing on the legislative action. Because it really doesn't have it can be a 3A, 3B, or it can be a 3.1, 3.2. On the sections of the ordinance, that really doesn't have any adverse effect on the legislative action that you
Right,
took.
that was one of the issues. 3.1 and 3B or
Yeah,
something
so
like that.
we responded to that as well a couple of weeks ago.
Scrivener error, yep. Anything else?
Have we had any commitment from Olympia on this whole courthouse? Remember, they were going to commit to 30,000 or whatever it was, or did we ever get that?
30,000? I
No,
think
30 million.
Hopefully it's more than
Yeah,
that.
30 million, I guess it was, yeah.
Jeepers.
We are having conversations with.
But that's never came about yet.
No, and the conversations need to continue. And I had a conversation with Steve Hall, the city manager, over a week ago, because we need to still have that conversation as to the means and methods as to how the city is going to participate. Because also, look from their perspective. They also need to make sure they have a financial capacity to support
Well,
this
sure.
project.
Yeah.
So there is also, they need to do their homework.
Okay.
So I don't think there is an indication that it's not a partner. It's just the detail as to how the partnership will occur is really what we need to work through it.
I just wondered if it,
So the intent is really to have somewhat of a final draft in local agreement by the end of this year, or maybe a sign in a local agreement predicated on this project moving forward if the ballot measure passes in April 2020.
one other.
Well, hang on, is that all for public comment?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Gary.
This weekend, I was asked to, I don't know, be present, I don't know what you'd call it, to a church event in Lacey, and one of the local churches. And so I went down there and just, it was kind of a community fair is what it was. And the first thing I heard when I got there was, well, the health department had told them they couldn't serve something. I don't know, they couldn't have their hot dog thing going or their grill going or whatever it was. And that got me to thinking, are we usually interjecting ourselves as the Board of Health, Health Department, whomever, into religious organizations and their activities? I mean, do we go to the, I don't know, the Jewish function or the Hindu function? There's quite a big Hindu camp out around Yelm. And do we tell them how to serve their food and how to participate with the county and all that kind of stuff on religious activities?
No.
Well,
The county is not actively going through each religious organization and asking them what type of events they're going to be holding. That's not the approach the county takes.
I didn't talk to the
we can get
official
into this
there.
scenario because if I may venture to say, perhaps this church organization submitted a permit.
Applied.
Very possible. I don't know
And
the
submitted
answer
a
to it.
permit, and through the permitting process, they didn't meet the standards as to how they need to serve food.
Well, no, there was an inspector out there because there was a county
But
car.
I
didn't see
have to
him.
tell you, the county is not in the business of going on every single religious organization and getting into their schedule to determine when they're going to have a function that will serve food.
Yeah, I
That
mean-
is not the function of the county
Okay,
government.
so how that came about, I have no idea,
No.
but it just got me thinking, are we trying to tell these different groups how to conduct business? And I thought that
No.
Probably
And
wasn't a
we-
very
We
good
just
move.
respond to an application.
However, and I haven't, this isn't specific to your organization or the event you attended.
Well, it wasn't my
But-
organization, just it
I meant
was
event
a
you attended,
organization,
but
yeah.
If a complaint came in, doesn't matter, it crosses religious lines and geographic, all kinds of lines, public health is public health. So if they apply for a permit, it's going to be inspected. If a complaint comes in, it'll be inspected, we should be responsive. But I would imagine on a Saturday or Sunday, a complaint would come in and somebody from the county would run out. That's not real. It's not
Well,
realistic.
I mean, I just wondered where we draw the line, because one group doesn't like another group, and, you know, you got the whole Ramtha group out there, they have their events. Are we gonna start grading events or something?
No,
Just because somebody gets a
I
complaint?
really don't want to get into that conversation, Commissioner.
Yeah, well, I don't
because
want to go there as far as,
With all the respect, I
at
think
all.
we need to maintain a separation.
Yep.
And the only business the county has on those religious organizations is when they submit a permit to conduct activities related to public health, and we respond accordingly.
I think
is
what-
that required? I guess that's my question. Is it required that these religious organizations come to the county for authorization to do their thing?
I think
No,
any
to
organization.
serve food.
Yeah.
Any food serving?
Well, all
Any
depends on the
organization.
any organization.
So do we know about whatever is a traditional, how hot does something have to be if you're cooking a Hindu style dinner or a Jewish dinner? I mean, where do we draw the line here?
It's not
We
about
draw the line at the RCW and
it's
our
not
health
a-
codes.
It is not about the type of food, it's about the condition of the food that's going to be served to the
I know.
public.
I think how it usually comes up that I've seen in community events is when you bring in a vendor. Like if my little club's going to be grilling our own burgers, I don't think that club would ever even think to apply to the county. But if you're going to have like a community fair and you want to bring in, RJ's Burger Booth, well, they've got a license and they know and they
They do,
submit and then they get inspected. And I've seen that happen all over the place, where county inspectors are at some little fair and you're thinking, why are they here? Or what triggered this?
Yeah.
And it's basically because the vendor is a commercial operation that knows the rules and submits their application. Hey, I'm going to be at the Griffin Neighborhood Association, and they will. And I've seen county inspectors come out.
I think what maybe happened, I don't know this, I'm just asking, that's why I'm asking the question. There were commercial vendors there that
Yeah.
are regulated by.
Then that will happen.
But I think then it expanded from checking on that vendor
Oh.
over here to the community kitchen, you
I
might
see,
say. or
yeah. All the
bur-
different
the
activities
grill
that are
or
going on.
something that's going on here. Do you folks have your card
Do we
or
have our
your
card?
license or? I'm just trying to think of where we want to draw the line. I don't want to be the policeman of everything where we say, well, pretty soon you have a problem where I don't like what these people do, so I'm gonna be scrutinize them a little more than the others, and I can just see things coming of it.
Or it could be
That's all.
just the perception of the person that made the comment to you.
Hard to say.
And they're completely off
I don't know,
base
that's why
or
I asked,
wrong.
that's why I'm asking
You
the
know,
question.
if I may, where you draw the line, you as a Board of Health, is protecting public health.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do we go on private property without consent and different things? Like, I'm just thinking about a ramp, the event out there. They have a couple thousand people. Do we normally go on there and, you know, they charge everybody else $100 to go? Do we go on and make sure their food service is right and stuff?
I don't know.
That's a great question for Shelley
That's a great
Slaughter.
I don't know the answer to that either, but I see legalities that could get in the way.
So the county cannot get into private property, just.
Good. Well, that was all taking place on
So
private property where I was at this
if
weekend, so.
if a particular organization chooses to serve food without a permit, that is at risk, these organizations take.
Yeah, there you go. It's up, they
But
might
we
get
don't
in
have the
trouble,
means
yeah.
and methods, as a code enforcement, there's many property owners who decided to build without a permit on their properties. But we don't have we don't have the means and methods of the resources to actively go check every single activity and every single, to see whether they're in compliance or not.
Okay.
Anything further? We're done. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you.
See you next time.
This additional information?